I saw this video at the weekend of him talking into a video camera while he's on his skateboard,
he's
skating
with,
in New York.
With the motor in it.
Yeah, skating in New York, and he's just saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude, how you doing?" And I saw him doing that, and
the skateboard gets its own story. His studio is like an own story. He's a studio with every kind of corner there is something you can bring. It is nice. It's nice. But
and so
you need to skip some.
It's not to my taste.
No, you need sometimes maybe you need to skip some.
No, but the thing is that obviously this guy taps into something in a way which obviously doesn't suit what I do in any way, shape, or form. But there are, let's just say, traits or elements of what he's doing which maybe you could think, okay, maybe that could be a path to follow or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're live already.
We're live already.
Yeah, because it's always good to do it that way. I don't like the formal start and all that kind of bollocks. So Michel Maat.
Yeah. Michel Maat. Hey man.
And so I'm going to leave it for you because look behind you.
Shut up. For me. Is it for you? Yeah, I saw comments on your YouTube. You must shut up more and let
your guest speak.
Let your guest speak.
That's all I'm saying. You've got 2 hours.
I've got 2 hours.
It's all yours.
That's no problem. So I can ask you the questions.
Yeah, that would be a bit like your show that I was on. So you tell people about you and Cafe Obscura and everything that you do.
Yeah. So I'm Michel Maat. I'm from Delft, and I have a community called Cafe Obscura. It's a community for image makers. We have a YouTube channel where we provide video in the form from live video like this, like a talk show. And I host the talk show, and I do it with 2 people on the table mostly, 2, 3 people. You've been there on the table with Rogan. Yeah. The questions are coming in from live from YouTube, so we can interact with the people who's watching. So it's nice. And it started all like a joke. And Friday nights, people coming over to the studio drinking a beer. And you got Periscope the first time, where you go live with your telephone and Periscope on.
And that's what happened.
That's what happened. We got a duct tape. We put it on the telephone. Put it on a holder. I think it was hairspray or something like that. Put it on the table. Get the beer here and talked to the camera. Yeah. And then I saw that the letters are too short, too small. So I can read what the questions are. So I put on another phone and then put on the questions, and we answered like an hour. And so it started like a joke. And I think I'm now at episode 70, and it's not a joke anymore. It's now serious. I've got the lightings like here. I've got the cameras. We do it like more professional. Yeah. And it's every Friday. Yeah. So that's me going live, and it all started like me wanted to do a community kind of style setup, now online, maybe in the future offline, where image makers can meet each other. And image makers for me is all the ingredients you need to make a good video, to make a good photo. And it's the photographer, it's the models, it's the visagie, the girls doing the hair. It's the location, it's the knowledge about the stuff you do. It's the stuff you have, the cameras that you have, all the things, all the ingredients. And now I'm doing that on Cafe Obscura, the site, and there we come together at all times. And everybody.
So this has been going for a few years now, yeah?
It's now my 3rd year, I think. And for me, it's like 1 year or 1 year and a half that I put in my energy full time into the community. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Normally, I'm a photographer. I do a lot of shoots for corporate kind of style, and I do video. And that's mostly the thing I do in Cafe Obscura as well, video. And there I do the tutorials, the live show and things like that. So I switched a little bit to video, but I do like 25% video, 25% photography, and the other 50% is Cafe Obscura.
So you spend 50% of your week organizing something you do just once a week. Do you see what I mean?
No, almost.
So you do it, you said every Friday you do the episodes.
Yeah, every Friday is that, but what I do is I send my guests an email or a mail a week before or 2 weeks before what I need from them, the photos, the pics and things like that. Then I spread some photos on the internet probably this kind of guest I'm gonna get this week. This is our photos or videos. And Friday there's the show, and I build the show every Friday. So I take my computer, I take my table, the lights are there, but I need to plug in all the stuff. And that's only the live show. And what I normally do is I have a website, cafeobscura.nl. And in the website...
Can I just say, when you are doing this, you're leaning on the mic.
It's here.
Yeah, you're leaning on it, so it's crackling.
You put it too low.
Yeah, it probably wants to be a little bit
I will sit straight on, it's no problem.
But thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I hope it's not too much crackling in my mic, but where was I? Oh, the website.
Yeah.
What I do beside of the shows is I have a website where you can learn photography from the image makers that I introduced to you.
Right.
And there are online courses.
Okay,
and
so
like
on here you've got these are the
episodes
of your interviews.
Here on the other side there's the interviews.
Yeah.
This is episode 70, 69. And did I do in Nijkerk? It was on a fair, a photo fair.
Yeah.
But it's like episodes from 1 to 2 hours, and we do photography and video, and we show the portfolio and talk about the people, who they are and what they do. And this kind of
okay, this is the one that I was on,
yeah. This is one you're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now these are
these are behind the scene movies.
Oh, okay.
This is for talks about photography. It's like in Utrecht here. I filmed it, and it's like they have talks about 15 minutes about photography, and there are 15 photographers talking, and we did all the video shoots from that. It's like 3 angles, so like an overview.
So what do they talk about?
Mostly photography, and in this kind of episode it was like photography and business. How do you go with business and photography? And the first guy here, Thijs Hesselveld, he makes his own books. He talks about publishing and things like that. So it's like a broad audience, and there were 15 kind of guys, and there I put the videos on, and it's like through our channel. And that's in order of talks about photography. It's another company, they hire us, and we take the video.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's related to photography, so and making images. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is the YouTube kind of side of the business, but I got a website as well, and there you can learn the online trainings and things like that.
So you sell training videos?
Yeah, it's training videos through other image makers. So I'm more of a facilitator than I teach myself. Okay,
so other people will come to you,
I
and
connect
they will put their videos on your platform.
We do the recording, and they will give the knowledge.
So they just come, they've got the knowledge, they come to you for the platform and the video editing expertise, and then like you create the videos for them, and then you put them on your website.
I put them on my website.
And then they take a cut, maybe.
Yeah, they take a cut and a royal cut. I'm generous with the cut, so I want to do. But they are the creators. They are the guy who would have the knowledge, and we only have to facilitate for them. So I don't have to have the whole cut, you know. Like I want to walk out the door with the guys and have a beer and a laugh.
Yeah, no, it's good.
That's nice. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So where do you see this going?
What
are your plans for this in the future?
The plans for the future, I've got big plans, but we'll come back to later. But I want to have 180 episodes. That's what I promised
180.
When I start. 180. So a quick counting. It's like 3.5 years of broadcasting every Friday.
That's one a week. Yeah.
One a week.
One a week. Yeah. And that's not every week.
It was every week till I got some time off and think about the format, and I took 1 to 2 months period of time to make a break. How do you say it? A break.
Yeah, you have a break.
And this one was like 4 to 5 months, so it was kind of going too far. But now I'm going back to once a week, and this Friday there's another one, and the Friday on.
So how difficult do you find it to have a steady stream of victims to interview?
This last period it's not easy, because I have a busy other things to do, so I need to get the people over. I already have 70 episodes now, so I need to have new guests, new kind of stories and things like that. So it's not easy.
Do you have repeat
anymore.
guests?
Sometimes, I always say to them, if you have a good story, and there's a news story or you have something new to tell, just give me a call. You know, it's like.
So how, now that you've been around for a while, how many people come to you and say, we want to be on your show?
If the show is running, like a break, if now is a break and I need to have 2 months of asking, and if there are 2 months are running, they will come to me as well. Like a 50-50, I think.
Yeah, so that makes it a little bit easier.
That's easier, but I need to keep it running, to keep it flow and keep it on mind, and then it goes like 50-50, I think.
Cool.
And where I want to go, I want to grow on YouTube. That's nice. I think I like the medium. I like to have to see that you can get a message across and you can get to know other people. You know, make video formats. Yeah. And I want to grow to a big community of people who are connected to each other, and in a good way. You know, in making content with each other, making each other lives easy by sharing knowledge and things like that. Yeah. And it not always have to be paid. You know, like on the website. Sure. And what my main goal is, maybe in 5 to 10 years, is to have a real cafe where you can meet all the people and where you can
a physical place to be. A physical
place where you can be, where you can make content, where you can meet up with other people, where lectures will be given, where maybe a gallery is where you see photography hanging on the walls. Yeah.
I just had an idea. We could do one downstairs.
Yeah.
Cool. We could do one downstairs.
Yeah. You show the room there. It's nice.
The room's really cool downstairs, and that would be interesting.
Like with a lecture in here.
And then just mix it up with all sorts of stuff. Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to travel around the Netherlands and pick some cafes and then do there some speeches and some nice where you can meet up with other people, like a meetup kind of thing. Yeah. But the main goal, the dream goal I have is my own cafe. Yeah. With a studio on it, with classrooms, with maybe a little theater for movies and things like that, all in one place, where all breeds content and creation and people who are building image. Yeah, that's the main goal.
So hope you get there, dude.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Cool.
But so the biggest problem with all of these things is monetizing. Is how, you know, they're all great. Yeah. In theory, in the head, and they all have an enormous energy. You can derive a huge energy from it as a altruistic thing to do, but somewhere along the line that room has to be paid for, and somewhere along the line you have to feed your child and your partner, and so that is always the problem, isn't it? Yeah. Dream and reality.
Yeah, dream and reality. Yeah, clouds and dirt. You know, your head's in the cloud, but you need to stick your hands in the dirt to get there. You know. Yeah. And I think maybe my photography and my film will go to 0 and 100% to Café Obscura. Yeah. If that happens. Yeah. But now I need to have both because that's taking me.
So my observation is, because you invited me when I moved here last year, you invited me on, and which was interesting for me. But your one with me you did in English, obviously, because that's what I speak. But you do this in Dutch, right? Yeah. So there's a huge hats off to you for doing it in Dutch, because you've got to know that doing in Dutch massively takes the whole internet and reduces it down to a tiny bandwidth of potential customer that you've got. So you're making it quite an uphill.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah,
but that was the mind of myself. I wanted to first conquer the Dutch market. Yeah. And then maybe take the leap to the European market, or go bigger than that. I think my English is okay, but I'm not.
It's like most people here.
Yeah, but I'm not confident enough that it's like I want to present it every week. You know, I need to. Make
so do you see a point in time where maybe you would switch to?
Yeah, I've got a lot of network and people who are speaking English, you know, and I go to the Fotokina, and there I make new friends and things like that, and they're all English.
Yeah, sure.
And if they are in Holland, I don't mind to make the show English, you know. I will do it in an instant, or I will switch if there is a Dutch people on the table or English. I will switch it up, and I don't mind. Sometimes it's get a little bit peep up, but you know, it's a problem. But mostly I prefer only English people on the table, or Dutch people on the table, it makes it easy and you don't have to switch all the time.
The switching would be a nightmare for people.
Yeah, for the people as well.
It'd be quite difficult.
And maybe for in the near future, maybe we will go switch to English. To make it broader and to see if we are going to make it bigger or
So have you always been a photographer then? Because you're how old now? You're 40 now, right?
Yeah, I'm 40 now.
That's okay to say that?
Yeah, I don't mind.
It is, because you said you had no problem with it.
No, I feel 23, so...
Yeah. A little bit older than me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a bit. So have you always been a photographer in your professional life, or were you something else before?
No, before I was in retailing. I did some experience in shops. I was there for for selling stuff. I first began in the Netherlands. It's called Blokker. It's like a store where you can buy your coffee maker, your mixer, your things like that, your Tupperware things, things like that. I did that for 4 years. Then I met Patrick. Patrick has a photo business. And it's not a normal photo business, but it was a photo business with a print shop in it. And it was like a print shop with proper prints, like not the kind of prints you go to the HEMA or things like that, but with the prints printed by print and then scanned by print, and then I passed the cyan, magenta, yellow, the things like that. We took every picture and then we corrected it if it needed it. And I worked there for 9 years. And I sold cameras, and it was like in the change of analog, digital. So my first digital camera that I sold to a person was the Sony Mavica with the cassette disc in it, and you can take 10, 12 pictures or something. Things like that. So I had seen the switch of film. We bought a lot of film, and they developed it, and they bring it back, and people are like, "Oh, nice, my photos!" The magic of what's on my roll. That I encountered, and then I go to the Fotovakschool. It's a school here in the Netherlands. It's like a school for photography.
So while you were doing that job, you kind of got an inkling that you would be into doing photography.
I like the photography. I always take the camera on vacation. My mother gives me the camera and gives me the rolls, and in 2 days of the vacation, I said, "Hey, my rolls are gone. I want to shoot more." And my first camera I bought with Patrick as well. That's really nice. It was the guy where I got to work, and I bought my camera there a couple of years before. But photography was not always in my system at the first. No,
right.
It was because of the store, and I got to appreciate more, and I want to learn more about it. That's why I wanted to go to the school, and I wanted to look if it's possible to make my job of it.
Yeah.
And I was working with Patrick for 7 years, I think, too. And I did the school in 3 years, and then I started for my own business in 2006.
Cool.
And still I'm doing it.
So what was it? I mean, my point is, I think my question is, what was it about photography that made you go, that's what I want to do? Yeah. Is it the fact that you're a male? Because pretty much as a male we like gadgets, right?
Yeah.
You come out of the womb, and as soon as you see a remote control, you're just going, ugh! And you break things apart to put them, unsuccessfully put them back together. So there's this, I think in most men that I know have met, that there's just this addiction to gadgets. They have to play. So I see a lot of people in photography that I've met who I know I would put them in the category, they're into photography because it is a world of gadgets. Yeah. It's a world of groups of bits of gadgets you can put together and make your own little story. Or is it the creativity side and the actual side of capturing a moment?
60-40. 60 for the creativity, I think, and maybe 70-30.
Right.
I like gadgets, but I already like the gadgets outside of photography, not only the photography gadgets. I like more the creative kind of feeling you get. You push a button, you freeze a moment in time, and you can see it on a piece of paper. It was like magic at the first time. And when I first go into the dark room, and I saw a picture coming up and things like that, it was like,
when you're just moving the chemistry, and then suddenly after a little while
it's
it comes
magic,
up.
and it's not gadget kind of style. It's like magic kind of style, and you can freeze some things in time. And I think the combination of the gadget of the gear, you get the gear and you can put a roll in it and you can roll it up and you can put the camera in another kind of position, you know. I liked that a lot because I liked the gadgets. But I think photography for me was mostly creative.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Put a story in it or take some things home, what you see.
So what did you do when you came out of school and you set up your business? What was the first kind of work that you did?
Portraits.
Portraits.
I had to choose 2 directions to study, to take my exams, and I choose portraits and fashion. Fashion was a hard kind of photography style, not easy to come in. And portrait was easier, so you can portrait kids, grandmas, things like that. So I was.
Well, that's social, isn't it? Where fashion is business.
Yeah.
It's
I started more social.
Yeah,
I started more social, and I started shooting kids in the neighborhood and the families, and okay, the family is talking. She has a hair salon. Okay, do you want to come and take a picture of all our employees in the hair salon? Okay, it's good, and so it grows.
Sure.
And I live in a village, so in a village everything goes like mouth to mouth.
Yeah, sure.
And at one point I don't have to make some advertisement because the mouth of mouth doing the work, you know. And so I've got a good sense of a good kind of clientele. How do you say it? Clientele? Yeah. And I did it for till 2012, and then I get bored of the white backgrounds, the kids, I don't find it any challenging anymore. You know, it was over for me. So I did more. I came more to the business kind of side. So I do it for hotels and things like that, the interiors, the buildings or something like that. Right. Product shoots. Yeah. And I leave the how do you say, the kids, the families and things like that. I put it aside. Yeah. Weddings, I put it aside. It was not me. It was not with me like a person. I did it only for the money.
Just to get started, earn some money, get some experience.
At first I liked it, and the money was great, and then I didn't like it, and I started doing it again and again because it pays the bills. And then I get older and older, and I saw, no, this is not what I want to do till I grow 70 years old or things like that. And I've met a lot of people, but being a photographer is a job, being alone a lot of the time.
That's a common thing.
Yeah. And I don't like it. I don't like sitting at my computer and doing all the corrections and things like that. I like the social aspect of it, from taking the pictures and being with the persons, but all the other stuff, I don't like it.
That's something that I've become aware of only in the last, I'd say, I've only become aware of it, which is to my detriment really, that going the advent of digital photography on behalf of the manufacturers and going to really big exhibitions, seeing big groups of thousands of people, and then going to like exhibitions, the one that, where is it, Nike?
Nike, yeah. Professional imaging.
I walk around those places and I go, what for? Why do you come here? I mean, and I would be actually on stage, background processing, because a lot of the times, obviously, you're doing let's just say material, you could call it material, a demonstration which you've done 1,000 times, so you do it in autopilot. So while the consciousness is giving a lecture and telling the jokes and all that kind of stuff, there's the real me going, and I'm scanning the audience going, why are you here? I go, and what I've learned to realize is that, I hear the same thing from so many people now that I now stop and talk to people. They say it's such a solitary business that I've realized that many people go to these shows, but they go so they can meet people. Yeah. They don't, that it's a far second to go and see the exhibits. The exhibits are just, they're the second consideration.
That's why I go to Duitsland as well, to Köln. You know, like the Photokina. You meet a lot of international photographers, and when the fair is over, you go to the restaurants, you go eat something, and you go mingle with the guys, and that's where the networking happens. You know?
Okay, so this is a question for you. So you didn't know this was happening. Okay. Nice, but better take a quick break and get the mics right on both. Still lots of fabric cracking.
That's no problem.
Is there? You want to take? I don't know what you can do with the mics, but you're not going to stop.
It's lower. Maybe I can do it more up.
Oh, just put them. Yeah, just move it up higher. You can do it. It's going to be a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Maybe higher would be better, but it shouldn't be because this is how I do all of my recordings.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think what it is actually, because when I do my webcasts on that studio, I am always standing up.
Yeah, you sit like this.
And when you sit like this, you crunch over.
Yeah.
And so then when you go like that, and obviously with the mic down here, it's...
Yeah, it's
so
near,
hopefully if it's
near
up here, it should be a bit louder. Kel, is that any better, mate?
Is this better? Yeah, let us know.
So yeah, now what was the question I was going to ask?
Yeah, you say something I didn't know.
See, that was going to be a really cool question. That was going to be...
If it's cool, it will come up later.
No, come on, man.
Okay.
Oh,
think back. We were talking about.
Damn, that was going to be a good question. Oh shit, I hate it when that happens. It happens so often.
You can give Kel the credits for that.
Yeah, I'll give Kel the credit for that. No, it will come back. It will come back.
No problem.
So, so anyway, why don't we just then move through a couple of things that we kind of had planned to maybe talk about. This came to me from a guy in Sydney, and he sent me the link to this the other day. I'm going to zoom this up for people so you can see what this says. The world's first large format digital camera is yours for $106,000. And I can't help but go, what the fuck?
Yeah, me too.
What?
I do not spend this amount of money on...
And yeah, I mean, it's got a whole bunch of stuff, and, you know, I would suggest anybody just go and search for this, you know, world's first 8x10 large format digital camera. It's got some quite amazing stats in here, except for one. The monochrome sensor can create color images of non-moving subjects. So what I'm thinking is, where and at what point in time can you actually, that's okay, Kel, don't worry, mate. But is it any better? Can you say if it's better or worse? Because then I can move it up even further. But yeah, a 9x11 inch monochrome sensor.
But you need to get the Rex and sit still for 3 seconds. Yeah,
it's back to the 1800s where you have that little thing and you sit there and you go...
Non-moving subjects.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like everything, you know, this is just the first, to me, a white elephant. It's an impressive gadget. But this will just be the beginning of something. You know, this will be kind of the thing that just breaks the ice, and then somebody else will look at that and evolve it, and then somebody else will evolve it, and somebody else will then evolve it. But why is there the need?
No, yeah, that's
for an 8x10.
That will be my question.
Because it's not an 8x10 print.
No.
Like an 8x10 transparency would go into a cassette, right? So you're not getting an 8x10 image out of this. So how is it?
It's more the factor of the.
So how is it classified?
It's coming out.
How is it classified as an 8x10 format camera? I just don't get it. But there's some interesting stats in there. But like the sensor size comparison is huge, and obviously bigger pixels are higher quality pixels. So, but whenever I see anything like this, I always refer back to my own argument all the time, which is, here's a picture of you. Yeah. You know who took it, okay? But just imagine that was a picture of somebody else. By looking at that picture, no one on the planet would be able to tell you what camera took that picture by looking at the picture. No. So what does the camera matter? Of course you need a camera, and of course you need a camera to a certain level. But just like computers a few years ago, like, yeah, maybe it's better. Good. Yeah.
Thanks.
And if we need to, we'll move it up even further.
Yeah,
and we'll just like wear it on the chin. But you know, like in the early days of, say, like me using my Apple Mac computers, the Apple Mac range, you wouldn't be able to use the lowest one for anything commercial. It was just really an email thing or whatever, or for doing Word or something. Yeah. You wouldn't use it graphically. But after a few years of evolution, then when I'd get the same questions from people, what computer do I need to buy? And it's like anyone. You know, and if you're only playing with, when I say you're only playing with still images, there isn't a computer now that won't do the job for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to get into high-end video before you then have to start questioning the performance,
4K kind of stuff.
or ray tracing in 3D modeling, you know, at 60 frames a second before you see the benefit of having a really, really, really expensive computer. So you can't tell what camera took that shot. You can't also tell what lens took that shot.
No.
You can't tell anything about the kit. So there's nothing in the kit that leaves a lasting trait on the image. So when I look at this...
I can show you the pixel who made it. It's the second pixel in...
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Fuji camera.
But you would never know by looking at it. Not one person on the planet would be able to go, that's the Fuji. That's the Fuji.
The GFX.
But if you go back 20 years, you would be able to say Ektachrome, Kodachrome,
the type of film,
Velvia. You would be able to do that because there would be a lasting trait in that image, unless it was corrected out. But even if it was corrected out, you would still know, if it had gone through corrections in the lab, you'd still know, yeah, that started life as an Ektachrome. But we don't have that anymore. So I just look at it from outside, in a sense. I'm in the photographic world, but I'm not a part of it. I teach it, but I'm not part of it.
You teach how
cameras to me are photocopiers. They're just really expensive photocopiers. But that is the size.
That's how I learned your appearance. You come on the stage with the camera. This camera is...
Do you remember that?
Yeah, this camera is like shit. Adobe is shit as well. Or something like that.
Man, you were there.
Yeah,
were you in the audience?
That was my first. What was my first impression of you?
And what was that impression?
It was cool.
I'm telling you, man, I never prepare anything ever because I like ad lib, and I remember watching somebody fumbling through some pre-prepared cards and giving a talk, and then he dropped the cards on the floor, and it's like, well, yeah, but this isn't your information, so why are you up there? So I always said to myself, I would never pre-prepare anything ever. I'd always ad lib. I'd just think about roughly the direction I want it to go in. And I remember that one because Adobe wanted me to go. They wanted to create a contest between me and Scott Kelby, and they wanted it to be a contest because they know that we are from different sides. We're different galaxies, far, far away, and they knew that, and they know what I'm like, and they just wanted me to be like a bit like a Rottweiler. And I said, that's just pathetically stupid. I'm not doing that. There's bits of me now that wish I did. But I remember I walked out and he was up there, and then I was there about 5 minutes before, and he was just finishing up, and I was watching, and then as he's packing away, I go up and say, hi, how are you doing? And then at that point in time, when I'm setting my computer up, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing that day or anything. I just know I'm going to be something with Photoshop and
you got a line. And
yeah, so while I'm plugging it all in and I'm putting the mic on and saying hi to people, and there's like 2,000, I think there's 1,800 people there that day. It was a lot of people. And then it was quite high, the stage, and down to the right there was all these directors and all these senior people from Adobe and everything. And and that was coming towards the end of my time with Adobe, so there wasn't a huge amount of love at that time, and there was a lot of frustration, and so after coming off the stage where somebody's wanging around and throwing baseball caps into the audience and all that kind of stuff, and I'm the opposite to that, and so I just remember that I just put the splash screen of Photoshop up on the screen. And then I walked out to the front and I held up my camera and I said, my camera sucks and so does Photoshop.
Yeah, it was a good beginning.
And I just remember as I turned around, I turned to my right. So I faced all the senior people and their faces. But it went so quiet. And then people are looking around at each other. And then when I just said, so how many of you have ever taken a RAW file and handed that to the client and edited? Not one of you.
No.
Right? Not one of you. So of course it doesn't suck, but it's not what you've been led to believe, right?
Yeah, it's not an instant good
It's
photo.
a worse start point than film. It's a worse start point in film. So then it was kind of ruffling and people's asses moving, and then by the end of it, it was like really, really cool.
Yeah.
But so that was the first time you saw me. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that was the first time.
Yeah. It's way back. It was in Nieuwegein.
Oh, that was a long time.
It was on the professional museum as well. Yeah.
So when I see things like this, man, I just look at it and I just go, tech for tech's sake. Somebody's making this for the sake of making it, because I don't think there's a niche in the market that has been screaming for that. No, that's the way I look at it.
Only the photographers who want to show off, hey, I buy the camera from 160,000 euros.
Exactly.
But
and I take it of static images, things that are not moving.
Not moving. No, I don't buy this shit.
But I do wonder, though. I do wonder whether maybe there is a niche in the market, and maybe this is just the icebreaker, and maybe in the months.
Yeah, maybe the price.
Because as we said earlier, any environment anywhere in life at the moment. Whereas I know when I was growing up, technology wasn't changing the place where you work, where you live every 5 seconds. It was much more slow moving and stable. So it was easier to sell very expensive equipment, because anybody buying that equipment would have the longevity.
Yeah, keeping it longer.
To be able to pay it off. Yeah. So everything was so much more secure. So like a scanner, for instance. A scanner, God, all those decades ago, because it is decades ago, like 3 decades ago, was £200,000. I mean, if you take inflation into account, you're looking at millions by now. How could anybody have ever paid for it?
Yeah.
Well, that couldn't exist today, because the market isn't stable enough for you to have a plan to pay for it over 6 or 7 years, because you're going to buy this thing for 200 grand or a couple of million today, and then the income that you think you're going to get from it is going to be gone by the next evolution that comes out so much quicker. Sure. So it's just now kind of like when you're saying about this creative thing that you want to make. Yeah, how do we pay for anything now?
Yeah.
Like how do we make money now? And when I look at photography from the outside looking in, is it an optimistic future to be a photographer and paying a mortgage and taking the family on holiday and saving for a pension? And
yeah, I think so. If you take it the right direction, you know, I think lots of photographers are practitioners in their jobs of taking photos, but they are not on the, how do you say it? When you're running a business, they're not good in running a business. You know, they are good in taking photos, but they're
that's for sure. Yeah, that's
and
for
I
sure.
think if you have both worlds, then you can more make it in the world of photography. But I think the most of the creatives are only creating the stuff and not selling the stuff good enough.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of big events that I would go to, they would have an equal amount of speakers talking about business strategy as they would how to take better images. Because a lot of people I know, there's only a handful of people that I've ever met in my life who are vocational photographers who went from the womb into school and then left school and were photographers and only ever wanted to be a photographer. I think I've met, on one hand, probably 2 or 3 people in my life. I had one of them here a couple of weeks ago. That is really surprising. And then most people I know, they were employed.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually have to run their own business. They just had to do a job within a business. So then when you go, yeah, I'll be a photographer, that's really cool. I did it at the weekends and everything. But then the reality of actually running a business and having to learn the business side is a big wake-up call.
It's a big wake-up call, yeah. And the other ones, sometimes they make it, but the big amount, they don't.
Yeah.
And that's what you see.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. And I think if they get schooled, and that's what I missed it at the school where I went, there was none of business talk. They did business lessons.
Didn't help
in the
you
school.
At all in that.
I've got one module and it's called projects, like thinking of a project, but not how to sell myself as a photographer when I'm done with school. I have to learn it all myself. You know, and that's where I get my interest from marketing and for things like that. To learn to sell myself. And what I said, I was living in a village, and there's the kind of advertisement that goes from mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
That's nice, but if it's not there, you need to go. Go to it yourself. Go to networks. Go to the social media these days, and let your work show and then go back to making pictures. Yeah.
Let me just see a couple of comments that have come in. So 10x8 camera is still there from product photography, where you need to control convergence. Yes. Max depth of focus, absolutely. There was this camera, absolutely, Jules, because there was a camera, I can't remember what it's called, you'll probably know. I went to Calumet in Rotterdam, and Kel, you might know actually. Remember when we were there and I was talking to Wim about, and he came out with this camera and it looked a little bit like that, but you could change the angle to predict the depth of, it was like, it was a bellows. It was a bellows tilt and shift, and they had a digital back for it. And so you, on your digital back, say like a Hasselblad digital back or something, you could put that onto something that looked like this.
It's combo.
But then you can tilt it, and what it does is it gives you can control the focal length, the depth of field.
You can mess with the focus.
You can do both of them. That's not in my sphere.
Yeah, I think it's combo. Combo, they build these things, and you can put on your camera. I think you can put it on your 5D as well. You put on your 5D, you put the combo in front of it, and then you can mess around with the sharpness and with the depth of field. Yeah. I think it's combo, but we can do it. We can put it in the comments or things like that. The link.
So it's a product. It's a product. Let's see a master checkout. Okay, cool. We will do. Thanks. So we were talking. You are the first person that I've spent so much time before doing this, so it's a bit weird. So when you do this with your victims, I like to call them victims, or your guests.
Yeah.
How? Because when I came onto your show, you picked me up at the station, but then we pretty much went straight into it, like quite quickly.
Yeah.
We've had like 4 hours.
Yeah, we did.
We've had dinner, we've gone around Utrecht and everything. So we've already talked ourselves to death already.
That's no problem.
No. But it does change this, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of what we talked about at dinner, and I was going, we need to talk about that, and that's kind of slightly contrived then, right? Because then you're trying to think, how can I fit that in? And I don't really like that too much, or I'm not that skilled at it yet. This is still really, really, really new for me. And
there's
now
no problem. I'm still learning at 70 episodes, so but I normally will let it happen. You know, they come in, we do the show, and I say 7 o'clock in the studio, and 8 o'clock we go live.
Right.
And if
so
they
you have
are
an hour before.
Yeah, if they are in 7 o'clock, we can talk a little bit and things like that, and I can explain it, how it works, how the camera works, and things like that. And sometimes when it's photographers close to me, or they say, "Can I come early?" I say, "Yes, it's okay. Let's do it." And then we go eating or something like Delft or something. But I think 70% is like coming in and going out.
Straight away.
Straight away. Yeah. And we have like an hour before and sometimes 2 hours after. So we have chips and beer and things like that. Yeah. More normally in the second half of the show, we put on the beer on the table and put on some.
Yeah, I'm buying a fridge for here.
Ah, nice. A walking fridge.
A little fridge to go under here, and so the Michael Curran last week he said, "So where's the gin and tonic? You know, where's the gin and tonic? Or where's the beer? Because the beer would be good."
Yeah, that's why I choose for the cafe kind of sphere, you know, like Cafe Obscura, and put in the beer or something they like. Yeah.
Okay.
It keeps the conversation. It's nice.
I still can't remember that bloody question I was going to ask you, man. That is going to annoy me. I'm going to end up asking you that question tomorrow morning when I wake up.
I'll do it later.
We'll have to come back.
Yeah, but we talked about lots of things today.
Absolutely. One of them is you said about reading. And because you said you do a lot of reading. Yeah,
I like to read the marketing books and things like that, the self-learning books and things like that. I normally don't read. When I started reading, I think 7 years ago, I've read my first book, I think, and therefore I didn't read books because I don't like it and I don't want it, and I have problems reading. And then I read my first book and I thought, hey, if I found a subject what I like, I can read a book because it's interesting. Exactly. And I was doing photography and I was doing business, so I thought, why do I not choose a book what's on business? And I go on the internet and I see Richard Branson. That was the first book I buy, and I
Yeah.
read it, and I read it at once, and not at once at a time, but for me it was like on my bed, and when I go to sleep, I will take the book, and I read it in 3 to 4 weeks, something like that. And I thought, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
Let's do it again and again and again. And now I've got maybe 40, 50 books that I read, and I always keep something out of the books and then use it for myself, or give me another way of thinking, you know.
Yeah.
And I like it. It's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I ask you the question: do you read the books?
No.
No.
But just like you, though, it's a personal challenge for me to educate myself to read books, not to read because I can read, but it's see it as a positive thing, because I've only read, I think, 4 books in my life. But when I read those books, I mean, yeah, the first book I read, I probably read 10 or 15 times. The second one maybe 3. No, the second one was only once. And then the next book I read 4 or 5 times, because there were a couple of elements in that book. Do you remember this particular book that came out, and it was called Celestine Prophecy? Do you ever remember that?
No, sorry.
It was such a pile of shite. It really was. I mean, as a whole, it was just pap. It was McDonald's. It was processed food. It was the equivalent of processed food. But like you just said, you can read the whole book, and not every single word on every single page is an enlightening moment, okay? But you walk away and you go, that was worth reading, because I got 2 things that I didn't know before that worked for me. Yeah. And that's like trolling the internet. That's like trolling YouTube. You have to start watching how many movies before you find one that's interesting. Sometimes you have to go through 10 or 20, maybe 200 sometimes before you go, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, I read the Celestine Prophecy, and there was one page. I can't remember what page it was. It might have been like page 68 or 67 or something. But there was a page in that book that was basically me. It was like,
you felt a connection with it.
It was like your mother, who would probably be the person who knows you the best, hearing your mother describe you perfectly to a stranger. It was just like completely open and unzipped to the public. It was like, what? That's me. You're describing me. And so I kept reading it, and then I got this huge fascination with the concept, which is all about personality types and energy. So, and I'd always been a believer in energy, okay, always. And I saw on this program, Tomorrow's World, we talked about it last podcast, this futuristic science tech show that was on in the UK. And I remember seeing on there, they had a camera that could see the aura of a living thing. Okay. That could be tuned to see the aura, so they can see your aura, and then the mood, your mood and your focus would extend your aura. So I'd always had this weird thing with my job, because I'm always, you know, for many years I was like always obviously center of attention because I'm on stage, and then you get off and then there's, you know, you're being stared at, and so it always used to freak me out that I could come off of a stage in Photokina or in some huge, great big trade show with thousands and thousands of people in it, and I could then be having a beer or a coffee with somebody afterwards, a big group of people, and then you know there's, if you turn around, you in your gaze, you're going to see something like probably 300, 400 faces as you turn around. How is it that you can have your back to 300 or 400 people and know exactly where to look at the person who's looking at you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? So you feel something that makes you turn around, and then you turn around and you turn around and you stare at exactly the person who's looking at you.
Yeah, it's like kind of connection, but how?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'd always experienced those kind of things. And then so when I read this book, and it kind of talked about personality types and how you develop your personality, and what personality you are, where it came from, and basically 2 different, well, in an ideal world maybe, or maybe not so ideal, but two parents raising you, you've got as a child a relationship with two independent people. So the kid isn't having a relationship with the parents as a unified group. It's got two separate personalities it has to learn to live with. And so it's the combination of the parents' personalities is going to massively influence who the child becomes. And then after reading this book a couple of times, only really for this one particular part of the book, the rest of it was a nice story, but it was just a parable. And the thing that really annoyed me was it wasn't the guy's own work. He had just lifted so many other principles from other people and pieced it together and made millions out of it. But, you know, all in all, it was a good read. So I read that, and I read that 4 or 5 times. And
was it the best read?
It certainly shifted my trajectory, definitely, because doing the job that I was doing at the time, I was very successful. I was really successful in a very short period of time, and I certainly wasn't the person who knew the most in the broad spectrum of all the applications, but I was by far the most successful from, let's just say, the manufacturer's point of view, for the person to be up on stage to get the biggest audience and to get the audience to stay there. Because in the great scheme of things, when it comes to shows, it's not about the credibility of the information, it's about the reaction of the crowd to you. That's what, from, say, Adobe's point of view back in those days, that's what they care about. And all they do is they have a budget, they have to put on a show, and they have to somehow measure the success of that show. So when I was doing what I was doing, there'd be loads of people taking pictures and emailing back to the States, look how great the show is. They weren't taking audio recordings about the validity of my information. That's not a part of it. It's look how big the audience is with the most popular shows. So I just went on this very quick, steep rise, but I realized that was nothing to do with what I was, maybe it was a part of what I was saying, but it's about the way you put it across. And I was always intrigued, and there was a few of my friends who were really pissed off. They would see the rota, the schedule, and they go, "Oh no, man, I'm going on after you. I hate going on after you." And I'd go, "Why?" They go, "Yeah, but look what happens, you know." And I go, "Yeah, but why does that happen? Because we're the same. You are an expert at what you do. You are amazing at what you do." But they would never get the same response. And so I wanted to know why, and in that book was the answer. You have to give to get.
Always, yeah.
And I always had the view, and I always do have the view, that the audience is not there for my benefit. I'm there for their benefit. Any enjoyment and any uplifting experience that comes my way has got to come after you give. So if you want something back, you have to give first. And they didn't. And then when I would tell them that, when we would have coffee, and I'd say, well, maybe you should think about behaving like this, because there were so many people I knew who all they wanted was all their ego wanted was the round of applause. All they wanted was the fanfare. All they wanted was, and they only did it. They only did it to get that back. They didn't do it because they were giving something.
I'm not.
And so, and when I walk around shows, I don't even need to look anymore. I can hear those. I can categorize speakers and put them in pigeonholes.
What they want and
why they're there. What's their motivation? And but that book was really interesting.
Cool.
And in my complete shift that I've had of reading is something that I know is something I have to teach myself. I have to teach myself to be able to read a book. But the book I was telling you about is a must-read, I would say, for anybody. And I read this years ago. Is Jeremy Clarkson, I Know You've Got Soul. And again, it's the human condition. It's trying to decipher. You know, it's Leica. You know, why Leica?
Yeah.
It's just a box that captures it. And a Leica camera doesn't even generate the image traditionally. So where did they get this royal status from? Where did they get it from? It's just a tiny little box with a hole in the front, and then you put the film in it, and the film does the magic. It's not the camera. But Leica have got, you say the word Leica to a photographer and you can double the price, right? Hence the black and white piece of thing that they made, the black and white Leica camera. And how expensive was it?
I don't know.
It was ridiculously, I think it was something like £16,000 only for the camera back. It was some ridiculous amount of money. And it took black and white images. But this book studied, or he discussed why some objects that man makes, we develop an emotional bond with it or a connection with it over and above others, and would tell the story of where the motivation comes from to build certain bits of technology. So there's two that I can tell you. The first one was Concorde, and that was a huge one for me because with my job, traveling all the time, I used to live really, really close to Heathrow. So I was not only the final stop at Shepperton, I lived right next to the station at Shepperton, so the trains would come in, but then I was on the flight path of Concorde from Heathrow, and at 7 minutes past 11 every single day Concorde would go past, but so would loads of other noisy aeroplanes. And when a normal 747 or whatever it is goes by, you just go, oh Christ, I can't record, because I used to do my DVDs in there, so I'd have to wait and do a 10-minute take in between aeroplanes going past. But then when Concorde went over, that was the noisiest plane ever, but every single day I would stop what I was doing and I would look up and I'd go, every day, why did I do it to Concorde? Why didn't I see that as a nuisance? Why was I just every day looking at exactly the same thing? But then when other airplanes, it's just a nuisance. Why? And that's what he examines, why we react differently to one thing and another, and also the stories about where greatness comes from. And my favourite one, I think it was the GT40, the Ford, the Ford Le Mans, when Ford won the Le Mans for the very first time, and that blue with the stripe and do you know where that came from?
No.
That from this book, I'm only reciting what came out of this book, but the story goes that Enzo Ferrari shook hands with Henry Ford for the purchase of Ford. So Ferrari had made a deal to buy Ford as a company. And Ferrari were winning Le Mans all the time, okay? And Henry Ford went back home and he reneged on the deal and he changed his mind. And was it that? No, hold on. It was the other way around. Ford were going to buy Ferrari. Sorry, got that wrong. Ford were going to buy Ferrari. And when Enzo Ferrari went back home, he reneged on the deal. And they were winning Le Mans all the time. So Henry Ford was so pissed off and so angry at the humiliation and the about turn. He went into R&D and said, build a car that wins Le Mans. And that's where the GT40 came from. Okay, nice. So without the breaking of the deal, that iconic car wouldn't exist. Yeah. And so that book goes through so many different machines that have been made, but they have a particular ingredient, which means we afford them, say, like human characteristics or feelings, and it's true, because I was at home the day that Concorde went up and when Concorde died, and that's what happened to me. When I saw on the news that Concorde had crashed, to me Concorde had died. A Concorde had died, and it had 100 and something people on it. They were not my concern. A Concorde died. Yeah. One of those things that I looked at. One of them doesn't exist anymore. And so I afforded it the same connection as I would a human. And then only afterwards, loads of people got killed too. But a Concorde had died, and then I read this book afterwards, and it pretty much explained exactly why I felt that way.
The connection to
fantastic book, fantastic book. And that book I was telling you is the only time I've ever done that. I read a book from start to finish in one sitting, 200 and something pages, 258 pages.
Just in one blow.
I didn't put it down, and from the first sentence I could not put it down. And I was in the cabin of a gullet holiday making ship off of Turkey, where I used to go when I worked with Adobe, and I used to go there 2 or 3 times a year. Whenever I got new kit, I would take the kit onto this gullet cruise, go sailing for a week, and then learn everything about the camera. And then one day was lost because I just read this book. But yeah, so I now have to condition myself to be able to read.
It's easy if you go to the good stuff and you think this is interesting. I think it's easy. Yeah. And the interesting stuff, yeah, for me it's marketing and things like that, and sometimes how the brains work, you know. And that's a good example. The book of Simon Sinek, The Golden Circle. Yeah. The why, how, what. Why start of how is it start with why? I think was a great book. It was one of the best books I read, I think. And it's like how the brain works when you tell a story, why you build your stuff and what you do and how.
Yeah, well, we've got that on here actually because we did decide that we would not this one because I've got a couple of YouTube things up here. And where is it? Simon Sinek. Was it here?
Yeah, maybe the next.
Oh, I got rid of it.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no, okay, we'll find it. We'll get rid of you, okay?
It's no problem. I don't mind. Yeah, it's a must-read, Simon Sinek. It's
this
really
guy.
Nice.
I have to say, we needed to be on YouTube, didn't we? Really? Why don't we go to YouTube? Yeah, this guy is very cool. And so, but as I was saying to you, really, I mean, I didn't read because. How I was up until probably only 18 months ago was very much, I don't need anybody else's information in my head. I'm more than capable of developing my own information. And my view had always been, I think based on the fact that I've been very lucky and I'd travelled my whole life and been paid by companies to go and travel. Well, you know, I didn't read a book to find out what America was like. I went and worked there for 2 years. You know what I mean? And so if I want to know what Australia is like, I'll go there. I don't want to find out what somebody else's opinion is because my opinion is probably unlikely to be the same anyway. And I was so sick and tired of meeting people who had so many opinions. So you go to a dinner party and someone's going, no, this is how it is. And you go, so how do you know that? Oh yeah, I read somebody else. So I read a book about it. So, okay, so you didn't actually do your own research. You didn't go and form your own opinion. You read an opinion that suited you, and now you're just beating me on the head with it. Yeah. I just despise that. I despise that. Me too. Yeah. So, but instead of then just going in this binary way that I am, or I used to be, which is very much black or white, and it's like my way or nothing, now I've got a slightly different view. And so this guy, stunning. And this particular, I'll find the one that everybody in it, if you've never seen this guy, the gold circle.
It is the golden circle.
The golden circle thing. This is it. Start with why.
Yeah, and the millennium speech.
And he was the beginning of my induction into YouTube, because I knew that YouTube was there, and I'd been told by many people, oh, you should make videos and put it on YouTube and loads of people know you. Blah, 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 blah. No, it's okay, thank you very much. I'm quite happy doing what I'm doing. Yeah. And I would go and have a look at YouTube once in a blue moon, but now it's an everyday occurrence that a podcast is playing in this room non-stop all day long. Yeah. And this one here, the speech, the best speech ever, the speech that broke the internet. If you ever wanted to know why these things are the worst thing that was ever invented, you just need to read that. Or no, it's not the worst. Yeah, no, it actually is the worst thing. We don't think that right now because they're really cool and we're addicted to them like crazy. But I think in decades to come, whoever it is will be alive then. Will look back at us right now going, the monkeys, the idiots, you know, they thought they were oh so clever with all this shit, and they couldn't see what was coming, what they're doing to themselves. And that, when you look back in time, is humans all the time, isn't it?
I think there is a shift going on with mobile, I think, and if you go look at the speech things that are going, like Alexa and things like that, I think the mobile is going more down, and you can speech it, and then you can describe what you want to hear from the device. But yeah, mobile now, everybody's in it, but I think it will be changing, because you see it in the cars. If you look if you drive in the car and you see people beside you driving, You can see them sitting on their screens of their phones.
Absolutely.
It's like dangerous, you know. And that's why you need speech and things like that to make it easy and put away the telephone, you know.
Yeah, but my question would be, why is there this need to be constantly engaged with something, and why is being in a quiet room with no distraction, no music, not looking at anything, why is that so difficult? And the younger the people are today, it'd be a wonderful experiment to do. It's just to bring somebody in a room, put a couple of cameras in the room, stick them in here, nothing on the TV, and just say, look at the screen, or I'll be back in half an hour, you know, and what's going to happen? Instead of just sitting with your thoughts and going, wow, I've got nobody calling upon my time, I've got nobody telling me what to do. God, I could sit here and think for a while. That isn't what people are going to do. Yeah. The second they're not preoccupied with probably having to work, they're going to be on their phone instantly, being distracted from themselves. Do you know what I mean?
It is because of that kind of content what it is. You know, you get distracted because there's always content that you like. You know.
Yeah, but the thing is with him though, this one here, the thing I liked about this one is that he gives the evidence of that it's a physical addiction.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's no different to drinking, smoking, or anything else. It gives the same response in the brain. Yeah. And all of this stuff is the same.
That's why they made the bulbs with you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 messages. You know, like indicators. Yeah. Yeah. I think there are some people now talking about it as well who worked with Facebook. And they talked how they built the Facebook and how to make people addicted to it, so to the Facebook as well.
Yeah, because you've got two forces here. You've got three actually. You've got just some people who are just sheep and they just do what they're encouraged to do, and then you've got some people who feel the sheep-like tendency in them, but kind of got control enough to go, you know what, I'm going to be a little bit moderate here, and I'll be able to monitor myself. But then you've got the companies who their success and money come from addiction. Yep. So they are only preying upon that.
Yep. I think Facebook is that.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah.
So, but this guy is, he was the first person that became somebody that I watched on a regular basis, and I watched every single movie I could find about him. What makes good leaders, and and I have to say, with most of the stuff that I listen to on there, it isn't stuff that I haven't thought of myself. It's just that comfort of knowing, hey, I'm not crazy for thinking that. You know, I'm not alone in that. You know, I've never had that conversation with anybody, but he's saying things that I've been thinking for quite some time. But that one particular one there is really good, and the golden circle one is for what should your driving force of your business be, and how should you put the message of your company across from the inside out or the outside in? Is that is such a simple way of explaining.
But it's finding for yourself the why you do what you do. You know? It's not only for the purpose of selling things, but it's the purpose of finding why you do what you do. You know?
So why do you?
Why I do?
Why Café Obscura?
Why Café Obscura? Café Obscura, I do it because I feel I need to connect people.
Other people.
Other people, yeah, in the same things I do, and when I learn the things that I learn, when I go to a workshop and I sit there a day and I write it, 50% of the day will flow away when I leave the door, and another 25% when I had too busy to keep the information in order, will fly away as well. So 25% will stay there. And what I want to do is I wanted to create a digital platform for myself to keep the information there, like a handout, you know. And that's why I wanted to do things more on the internet and for more like online, bringing the stuff that you learned the day when you come to you, when you have a workshop and I visit you in Amsterdam or Delft or something like that. I wanted to stick. I wanted to create a kind of natural way how I can stick the information to myself and make it myself, and then throw it into the environment where I can translate it to my own skills. You know, that was why the why was like connecting people and giving them a place to put their knowledge. That was it. Yeah, cool. And that's how we do it, and that's the product that we give. But it's a difficult kind of way of thinking of finding your own why. You know, you think you got it sometimes, but
absolutely,
it's not always the same. But it's difficult to find the why. And that's why I read the book, because I wanted to find the real why, and not all the whys that were swirling around in my head. You know, I wanted to more focus to the center.
Yeah,
that's what I saw in the golden circle. I wanted to go more to the center and then tell the story and then throw it out there from the inside out.
Yeah,
and not from the outside in.
I mean, it's just the perfect way for anybody who has a business who wants to learn how to communicate that business to the outside world. What the perspective you should take. And he uses Apple as a great way of explaining somebody, a company that does it right, or does it with a success which is unparalleled anywhere else. You never ever see big flashing buy now buttons on Apple's website. No. You never see, hey, today for 24 hours, 10% discount. Yeah. You never see them taking part in this Black Friday madness or whatever it is that goes on around the world from a commerce point of view. Of, you know, 50% off. They don't take part in any of that. None of that. No. And look at the success.
They tell the story about the product. You know, they say why we gonna make an iPad. It must be a product with people from 0 till 80 can deliver it. And then how we gonna make it? Yeah, we're gonna make it like this, this, and this, and this is the product. You know, and you make it out of a kind of feeling, and not this is the product. This is the iPad. Want to buy it?
Yeah,
it's more.
No, exactly. And the thing is, way before I ever saw this, and the thing that resonated with me was, if you had an interview with the person that used to help me run my business in Ireland, and she was just an amazingly fantastic salesperson and business person, but she was all about give a discount, just change it, repackage it, you know, sell to your existing customers and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no way, you know. And you come to my website and you don't even know what I do. I don't advertise in any way, shape or form. You have no idea how much it costs or what's in it. Yeah. And that has always been my way, you know, is I do not want to coerce somebody. I don't want to convince somebody. I don't want to sell it. And when somebody comes up to me at a show and says, hey, so why should I join your website? I say, go and find a member. Yeah. Don't talk to me. I'm not going to tell you should join my website. I'll find you a web member and see if they'll talk to you. But it's absolutely right. You know, it's about what you believe first.
Yeah.
Out rather than how much money can I make and how much duplicity can I impose on people to be able to coerce them to buy my product, and that I have no time for at all.
No, me too.
So this guy is well worth a listen to, and
yeah.
What was
you
the
show
other
me
ones?
the guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this one, yeah.
So yeah, so this has been a really interesting thing recently because I have a Patreon account. Because I just literally despise the culture of making money from putting adverts on movies on YouTube.
Yeah.
And when you look at what that spawns, the most sensationalist shite. and that's the problem, you know, viral is very rarely anything of absolute value. All it is a giggle.
That's a problem as well.
It's sensationalism, and so, you know, I've taken the view. I'm going to pull back from saying the word I will never, because I don't know what I'll do in the future, but my intention is that no matter what happens with what I'm doing here on YouTube or anything else, and I've got some nice ideas of things I'd like to do, but I don't ever want to be somebody that was going to make you watch a Land Rover advert on the front of my movies that's got nothing to do with it, and it's not endorsed by me or anything else, and then it just does my head in. So a friend of mine last year brought my attention to Patreon, which is the concept of that. Now that works. That works.
Yeah.
And you said you've tried it.
Yeah, I've tried it. Yeah. Not successfully.
Is it still there though? Do you still have it there?
Yeah, it's still there. If you go to Café Obscura, but you need to create content, and the content you get paid for, you know, or you get €1, €10, what you want. If people like what you do, they can sponsor you, like a sponsorship or something like that.
Yeah, but you're making that content anyway, right?
I'm making the content anyway, but now what I now do is like I'm giving the content away for free on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's what this is for.
Yeah.
I may have this wrong, but what I see this as is that there's a few people watching this, and there's like of the other movies I've done, they're still really, obviously they're really small. I don't do any advertising, and this is a new thing. So there's a few hundred people that might watch them. But it's for free. Yeah. And obviously you look at the stats and you see the percentage of people that watch the whole thing, and it's quite high. So that's good. So those people have come in through a bit of intrigue, and they've stayed for the whole thing. Yeah. They've gone, yeah, that was worth watching, and then they'll come back and watch next week maybe. I see that as I see having a Patreon account attached to my YouTube channel as no different than when I give a busker at the Dom Square, which I quite often do. There's one particular guy there who is so good at playing guitar and singing, and so I will always stick €2 in his guitar case. Yeah. Patreon is exactly the same.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
You know, he didn't ask me to listen, didn't ask me to like it, and certainly didn't ask me for money. It's a voluntary act. And so I love the concept of this. Obviously, from their point of view, I know they're having some issues and problems, especially recently, with how to structure the relationship and evolve it between content creators and stuff. But having a patron relationship with potential customers, I think is a really good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's a tip. It's here's a hero. Do it again. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, that's the easy way. Okay, you know, Patreon is a kind of crowdfunding way of doing things as well. There are people on it who wants to make some money for the shows, and they give content that's only for the Patreon watchers, you know. And the Patreon watchers give them €10 or €20, and they get access to a lot of videos. They are blocked for normal viewers. Yeah. So you can make it special content if you want as well. And what I see now in Patreon, the only thing that concerns me is like there are lots of chicks on Patreon, and if you pay them, they will take off the clothes, and then you can get their attention and things like that. And that's a big kind of movement there on Patreon. You know, it's not a good movement, but it's there
everywhere. Yeah. I mean,
so but yeah, in the content for us, it's good to put the content there and to let people know, hey, if you like it, you can give me $1, or you can give me €1, or you can give me that. That's good. I think that's the good use of it.
Yeah, I prefer that. I will certainly put it there, because why not? I mean, it's certainly no gun to the head of anybody that, hey, you have to Patreon. But if money or support financially to be able to keep making stuff that people like can come in that kind of relationship, that's infinitely better than ads all over everything. And now when you see some movies on YouTube and you see it load and you see 20 or 30 ads in the middle of a movie, you just think, my God. And you can't blame people for doing that. You can't blame them, but you can certainly blame the culture of the company that actually sets that relationship up, that all you've got to do is get the most amount of people to watch it. So is that going to inspire people to make the highest quality content, or is it going to be popularist?
I think the less.
Comedy, shocking, stupid. Because when you see the movies with the highest number of views, they are just ridiculously inane.
Yep.
But
I think
I like this guy.
Yeah, his why is simple. He wants to create a platform where you can put your stuff and make it as a creative, you know, like an extra $1 to make it as a creative to start your business. That's why he started it. Yeah. And this particular video is a nice one. This one went viral. I think this one went viral, Dear Casey. And he made a shout out to Casey Neistat. And Casey Neistat had had an idea to make a room that's called 368. It's like a gathering of creatives going to one place, and there you can record podcast and video and work together and do collaborations and things like that. And he has an idea, and that idea has to do with the 360 and Patreon, 368 and Patreon. And he made the video from, hey, dear Casey, I want to speak to you about this idea.
I watched it the weekend. I was here Saturday and Sunday.
And this one goes viral.
Yeah, I know.
It's really nice. And so this one lets you to see the first movie of Casey Neistat.
Well, that's the thing with this. One thing leads you to another. So this thing, when you find something you like and you come down here and then you go, ah, cool, and then you go here, and then 3 clicks, you are in another world entirely. So what I was going to do is I was going to show you a couple of the things that well, actually, no, because what I was telling you about these, where, like I said, about 18 months ago, God, if you could take the 18-month ago version of me and put him there watching this, he'd be going, who are you? You know what I mean? It's like, how did this happen in my future? Because it's a 180-degree change for me, and to be honest with you, it's things like this that this guy I featured on my webcasts, but that's obviously to a relatively small number of people. But this video is a must, and also the one that was before it, so the 995. Yeah.
And the 11.6, I think he showed.
This guy is just stunning. The mind of this guy, from a researcher, scientist, physicist, whatever you want to call him, whatever he calls himself, the way he studies physiology, and I'm very much now into health, fitness and stuff like that. I don't always practice it in the same way as I should do every day, but for the most part, I'm on a 80% improvement easily. We had a day off today because we had a good meal. Yeah. And the stuff I've learned from people like this, and this is on the Joe Rogan podcast, and so Joe Rogan's a really cool guy and got tons of experience, but I never watch it to listen to him, and that's why "Shut Up" is written on the door there. I know I don't do it all the time, but
no problem.
But the guests that he has on, man, I will literally, I can be watching it for 3 hours, you know, and you think, oh, I'm tired, I'll stick. Or you get the subscribe thing come up and it says, oh, Joe Rogan's live with Dr. So-and-so. And I go, yeah, I'll check that out for 5 minutes, see who he is, just before I go to sleep. Yeah. Yeah, at 2 o'clock in the morning. Why did I watch that? Yeah. But this guy is stunning.
But do you always consume it like video, or do you sometimes do it as audio?
Most of the time now I don't do it as video. When I'm here, it's on the background, or I'll put it up on here in video, but then I'll be working on my machine here, and it's just like a radio, and then when something comes up that's visual, then I'll look at it. But a lot of the times now when I'm walking the streets, I'll just have it on my phone and it would just be audio. Nice. And then if there's some video in it, then I know I need to watch it again when I get home. But this one was good. This one was really good. But this one is the one I've watched this whole thing, and look, this is 2 hours and 51 minutes. I've watched this now nearly 3 times, this one. It's stunning. Nice. Again, the research that this guy does, because I've got this massive interest in the ketosis, the ketogenic diet, because for me, I know it probably doesn't work for everybody, but for me it is just perfection. I mean, it takes a few days to get into it, and it can be a little bit painful to break the habit of eating carbs and stuff, and then it's only then you realize, you know, on day 2, when I do say like a 3-day fast where I don't eat anything for 3 days, you just drink water. Day 2, you can go through the wall and your body is just screaming, eat some bread, eat some sugar. And you don't realize how addictive it is until you're in that moment. And then you get through it, and then it's like, I'm never eating bread again because I don't want to go through that again. I'm never eating sugar again. But once you get into ketosis, it's just to stay there for as long as you possibly can. I'm more lucid, I'm more awake. When my eyes open in the morning, I'm up. I'm not going through a 20-minute waking up period that happens in the shower. I am awake. Yeah, a lot of people go, I have to have my 3rd coffee before I'm awake. But now for me, it's like, when I do this and I'm really regimented with it, by the third day, I'm running faster. I still do all the same exercise even though I'm not eating, and just the amount of energy I have and the amount of focus, and never do I experience the 3 o'clock dip. You know, when you haven't, do you ever get that in the afternoon when you get that dip? Yeah,
it's always because of bread. I learned something of a dietist. If you take your warm meal or salad with lunch, it's better to do that than eat bread, because of the bread will take you down like this.
Yeah, because it gives you a high, which then gives you the day.
Yeah. And if you eat salad or a normal warm meal, it gives you the normal kind of energy.
Yeah, well, it keeps you on an even level. Yeah.
But if you do this, you don't eat the whole time, only water, or is it?
Yeah, I now regularly will go 3 days, and
it's only water, no eating.
Not a single nothing.
Celery, no salads,
nothing for 3 days.
Okay.
And now my next one will be 4 days, because I now know that in the great scheme of things, 3 days is kind of baby, really. It's kind of a small one. Because when you listen to some of these physicists and these surgeons and these doctors and these medical experts, and what now they're researching, and this guy specializes, he used to be a surgeon, he's a really, really serious athlete, and he specializes in longevity. So I would recommend this to anyone. I mean, just the stories of life are just amazing, but it's all about longevity, and it's all about the study of cells. And I don't know, in a nutshell, basically ketosis puts your body in this state, whereas when you're constantly eating, your body is in a kind of a dormant sleep, really. It doesn't have to regenerate itself. It doesn't have to prepare itself to find food like we normally would have had to. Yeah. So it doesn't have to concern itself with the efficiency of the body, because we are constantly feeding it. So it never gets, this mechanism never gets tripped. So you have to go into this non-eating phase to then trip the switch for this ketosis thing to happen, which then goes around the body and then finds all the cells which are not optimum and consumes them as energy and generates new cells. So basically it keeps you younger, keeps you fitter, keeps you more alert, gives you more energy. And once you feel it, you go, how the hell did I not do this before? It's because I had no idea that this existed. No. But I can now look back at certain times in my life and go, now I know why I felt so good back then. Like when I lived in Yugoslavia. No such thing as McDonald's in Yugoslavia before the Civil War. The Civil War, there was, food was, you go to the market and get the vegetables on the day and then you cook it. Yeah. So it was just meat and vegetables. That's a ketogenic diet. So when I lived in Yugoslavia for a year, maybe 14 months, I probably for 6 months of that time I was in ketosis, but had no idea. And so now when I look back on it afterwards, I would say to people, it's one of the best times I ever had. Now I know why. I felt the best because I actually physically felt the best because of my diet. Yeah. So this is, for me, a must. And this is a library one for me. This is a must watch, and I will watch this over and over again. Oh, nice. There's a number of them that I have. This guy here, David Goggins, this guy's responsible for me running the way I do. It literally was watching a video. And I'm, 18 months ago, the person that would have been sitting here would have been ashamed to say that. I would never have said that I was motivated or influenced by somebody else to do something. But this guy... And
even running, maybe.
Yeah. Because to me, running, I did a run. I went running and I ran 2 miles because I was bored stupid, by running any further. And so I do my 2-mile run, and I would think, yeah, I went for my run. No, you basically did a warm-up. And then I listened to this guy's story. Trying to find it. Look, a pull-up world record. 4,000. You said 4,020 pull-ups in one sitting. But basically, yeah. And then he was talking about his induction into ultra marathons, and he went from nothing to an ultra marathon. That was the first thing he did. And then I'm brushing my teeth the next morning after watching this video, and I looked at myself, and I just come back from my 2-mile run, and I just went, you pussy. You know, how can you possibly think that was cool? So it was because of that. I then immediately went to 5. 2 weeks later it was 10. And then within probably 5 weeks I'm then doing 15. Nice. And then in October I'll be doing my marathon. So and then, well, I'm attempting to do the marathon. I don't know whether I'll be able to do it.
But how do you get so far, you know, like 2 kilometers and then going farther? What makes you switch?
It was separating. It was just him. His thing. His philosophy is, you have to build to enable you to get yourself to do something that you don't want to do. Okay, you have to build up a callus. You know, like if you do lots of weightlifting, you'll get some hard skin here. You have to build up a resistance to it. And like if I, you know, I've got really. I've never done a hard day's work in my life hands. Okay, there's nothing on my hands. But you look at a builder, and a builder's going to have big, thick skin here because he'll build up the resistance to be able to carry the stuff. And so his metaphorical kind of picture he made in his head was he had to build up a mental callus to resist your mind saying, don't do it, stop now. Stop, you don't have to run a marathon. And so I don't want to run a marathon because I want to run around saying, hey, I run a marathon. It's just a test. It's a goal that I never believe I would ever be able to. It's something I always wanted to be able to say I did, but I never actually truly believed I would do it. And so when it came to the running, and just had this picture in my head of, yeah, actually, when I'm running and I'm really tired and I feel like I need to stop, what is it that's making me stop? Is it my physical shape, that I just physically can't put my leg in front of the other, or is it my mind? And it's always my mind. Yeah. I'm bored doing this. I want to go home and do something else. That's why I should stop. And then you make up a story as to why you stopped. And so I just changed the way I think about it. And so what I now is, I have a mantra that when I set my Nike running app in the morning, if I set it for 10, I do 10, and there's no stopping. There's no stopping. No matter what happens, unless I pull a muscle, that's the only reason I could stop, then you do 10. So sometimes I stand at the bottom of the steps as I open the door and I go, ooh, is 15 today? That's a long way. Yep, it's 15. And that's it. And there's just no stopping. And then when I feel like I'm going to stop, then I remember the moment brushing my teeth, going, pussy, because you thought you were running when you did too. And so it's not that the whole story is anything. It's just that, it is mind over matter, and my mind over my matter, that you have to be able to drive yourself to do things that you want to do, but there's a part of your mind that is going to be the reason why you don't do it.
Yeah,
and
it's
you have
like
to
training your discipline.
Yeah, and I've never had discipline. Never. And that's a hard thing to learn at my age. And so these things really, really help. And so this guy is a beast. I mean, a beast of a human. When you look at his story, where he came from and where he ended up, he's a hard watch at times, but massive, absolutely massive. I know we had a few of them. Look, there's somebody. Look,
hey, I know the guy.
See, I got a whole bunch. What have I got here? Yeah, this guy, Jordan Peterson. You didn't know anything about this dude, right? No. Nothing about him.
Sorry.
What do you mean, sorry?
Yeah.
No, but you see, so from watching Joe Rogan, the thing I like about Joe Rogan, his guests are good, because obviously he's built his podcast to a point where, you know, he has booking agents, and basically they can just cherry pick anywhere around the world. Each movie makes tens of thousands of dollars, so they can fly people in and make a great show every single time. And many times he hardly even says anything, hence shut up.
Shut up.
But I first saw him on Joe Rogan and couldn't believe his story. And yeah, his story is a really, really interesting one, where I think most rational humans would have felt this, that the pressure of political correctness, or the pendulum swing of political correctness over the last, 5 to 10 years, I would say is just, whereas the pendulum needed to swing because, some of the words that would be used to describe various people would be absolutely wrong, and that needed to change.
Yeah.
But the pendulum has now swung to a point of ridiculous proportions, and when you look at what he stood up for, which was he refused to abide by a law passed in Canada that the social justice people had lobbied the government to make certain speech compulsory. So he just took massive objection to that and fought it, and to his detriment. I mean, he was hounded, and he's absolutely followed, and huge protests at his talks at universities and stuff. But what he's standing for is absolutely right. No government should actually. There's one thing, somebody telling you what you shouldn't say. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. Yeah. There's certain words now that you just wouldn't use in public that we used to use all the time. Times have changed. You understand that and you accept that. That's fine. Yeah. Being told what you can't say to some degree is bad enough. But it's a completely different ballgame when a government can prescribe what you have to say. Mm-hmm. That's something entirely different. And so when you listen to his arguments about it, the man ain't wrong. And it's not about the instance that has caused this, the transgender movement. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But it's not that. It's where it leads. Because as you said, you over here you say, if you give one finger, you take 10. Yeah, most people take 10. We say if you give an inch, you take a mile. It's not about the fight that they're all fighting about. It's about, if you pass legislation to encapsulate this, it's not going to stop here. That will just be the beginning of that direction, and then you're going to end up in a world of hurt. Yeah. And so hats off to this man. But he is huge. But there's loads in here. Nice. This guy here, Thomas DeLauer, I watched one of his this morning. A lot of it is hard to watch. But the detail, it's just the over dramatizing of it's the American way of marketing. This guy is immensely educated on physiology, the chemistry of your body. Mm-hmm. And if I want to know anything about ketogenic diet recipes, or what is happening within the organs when that is happening, or what I'm doing when I'm fasting or something, I come here first. Okay. I go to a couple of others as well, but this guy's really good. But he'll be giving a really good, like, into the camera view, and then it cuts to him doing pull-ups. It's like, why? You don't need to do that. You've already established that you are a massive success, hence why I come back. But you don't need to be doing that. You're preaching to the converted here, and so that I find difficult, but it's fantastic information. Fantastic information. I didn't know. No, it's worth just looking at, because he does it on a very purely medical. That if it's scientific. Now, I don't know. I didn't do the research myself, and I didn't do the things myself. But that's the great thing with this. Like we were saying before, the way I look at all this now is that you can choose to watch something. You don't maybe subscribe to the whole thing, but you might take a nugget. You might take a sentence, and that goes out, and it's a piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And then 2 weeks later, you find another one. And if you keep doing that, eventually the picture forms. And I see that with everything. Yeah,
sometimes you throw away the nugget because
and then you find a better one, and then that gets replaced by something else. Yeah. But
a good one with what I always looked at is Gary V.
Who?
Gary. Vaynerchuk. Yeah, it's upstairs there.
This dude.
Yeah. Gary Vaynerchuk is is a guy. Yeah, Gary V is his shortest name.
Yeah.
It's marketing, but it's no nonsense marketing. You know?
Right.
It's like he has a saying: clouds and dirt. You have your head in the clouds, but you need to have your hands in the dirt to get there. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is really cool guy, and he has a guy following him with a camera around 360 all the time, and he just want to let you see how hard it is to have a good company and how hard you have to work to get there. You know, it's not bullshit. It's not like I have money and I can start over and do it like real fast. You need to put in the time, the efforts, the patience and things like that to grow your business or things like that. And he write 4 or 5 bestsellers, I think, books.
Cool.
And this is the guy where I talked to you about for the Jabba right hook.
Okay.
He likes to jab and right hook his things, and it's like coming from the boxing world. Hey, when you go in the ring, you give the boxer in the head of you, you give him a punch there, and looks what he does, and then you give your right hook if you know where the spot is. And the same thing with him. If you go to social media or your marketing things, you can talk about your how do you say it in English? Occupation.
Yeah.
You talked about the occupation and let others see how you work and things like that, and let them in your world. And that's the jab. And then if you ask for a right hook, that will be for him. Sell my book, go to my online course or things like that.
Yeah.
It comes after all the getting to know each other, you know, and you have more like a connection with the guy. And then when you want to buy his stuff, you will do it more easier because you do it with emotion, because of not only buying. It's more like the why, how, what from Simon. But I like the guy. He's a no nonsense guy. So if you look at him and he says to a guy, he says, can you give me 4 words of inspiration to get my company started? And he said in the 4 words, you're gonna die. Like, just go on, you know, keep up the good work and go have someone. Yeah, this is a good guy.
Well, I've subscribed to it. I'll give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go. I want to
see
hear
what happens.
what you like.
I'll see what happens.
Most of the times, the first few videos you view of him, you think from, what kind of guy is it? But you need to dig in deeper.
Sure.
So
you have to give it a good go.
He says it himself. Most of the guys who see me the first, they don't like me. But if you go deeper in and you know what the meaning is, what he says, you can appreciate what he says. Yeah, he's a nice guy. And you? Do you have another one?
Do I have another one? I have loads of them on here. Yeah. I get rid of a lot of them. I get rid of them quite quickly, quite a few. But let's see what else is in there. This is brilliant. I've got quite a few cooking ones, but this. What I actually wanted to ask, because look, so you've got a Patreon thing here. Is there anybody watching today who I can't help but think the word is patronize. Patronizes somebody who actually gives money to somebody on Patreon. I've never met anybody that does. Do you?
You are a Patreon.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, I know people and I know
No,
people,
do you give anybody
No,
any
I don't
money?
give.
No,
okay. Not yet.
Yeah,
no.
Me too. I haven't found, because I
don't go for all the girls who put in all the clothes and then
I could tell you a story. I could tell you a story, okay? Should I tell you the story?
It's life, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this happens all the time. And isn't the problem really with this, we are subjected to so much information now and so much negative information. So on average news programs, you don't hear good stories. All you hear is negative. You hear negative use of everything. So about 18 months ago, I read an article on the BBC News site talking through this new scam that happens. So basically, via any social media app, you can be solicited by a horny young chick, right? And how anybody falls for this, I have no idea. But obviously they do, because there's so many people doing it. So what the new thing was about 18 months ago was, some girl will come on to Skype, because I get probably 3 a week, and because I've got so many people who want to connect, and I just say yes to all of them. I don't sit there and work out who they are. Life is too short. So I just say yes, yes, yes until they've proven. And the same with Facebook. I just go yeah. Now, whenever I see a young thing, slightly glamorous, I just now decline it all the time by default, because I went through this experience. So one of the people on Skype, I just said yes, and then suddenly, hi, how are you? And I would just say, so how do you know me? Oh, I don't. I was just bored. I was at home. And I just, for fun, I just said, okay, let's see where this goes. I know where it's going, but let's see where it goes. So so she says, so what are you doing? What do you do? And I said, yeah, so where's this going? And she said, do you want to see me naked? And I went, not really. Why not? Because I'm absolutely not interested in you naked. And she kept on, and I signed off, and then she came back, and then she videoed me, and I went, oh, Jesus, seriously, really? So I went, okay. And so there's this girl there, naked, in front of the camera, only naked upwards, and she's just playing with her tits, and she's just like kind of being all suggestive and stuff. And while I'm looking at this girl, I'm just thinking, you're someone's daughter. And you're a father of a young girl. Yeah. And then all I'm thinking of is this article I read 18 months ago, which was exactly what she tried to get me to do, which was show me your bits. Go on, show me. You know you want to. Mm-hmm. And all I'm thinking of is this article where all they tried to do is get you to be in a compromising position and then blackmail the hell out of you. And if you do anything, so I'm just sitting there, and all I'm thinking is, how far is she gonna go to get me to do what she wants, which ain't gonna happen. So I was just sitting there going, she's going, go on, you know you want to see me without my you show me yours and I'll show you mine type thing, you know, like when you're a 5-year-old. And I'm going, no, I'm completely and utterly uninterested. And she was just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and then obviously, you know, it was another one deleted and blocked. But it's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah. Facebook, the amount of times that in the past I've gone, yeah, okay, and then suddenly I haven't checked who that person is, and then there's a porn film on my wall. Yeah. And then you report that. I reported it to Facebook, and Facebook said, we don't see anything wrong with it. Yeah. We don't see anything wrong with it. Yeah, we will ban nudity, but a porn film playing on my wall, that's not a problem? Really?
Yeah, I get the same. I've reported a few of them, and they do nothing about it. Nothing about it.
Nothing.
No. Stranger.
So, but that always finds its way into everything. But anyway, this as a cooking show is stunning. You never see the guy's face. He never says a word. He just cooks food in front of you.
Nice. And there's music playing or only?
Yep, there's a little bit of music, but basically the recipes just come in as text, and you never see him, you never hear his voice, and you see some of it, and it's forest cooking, so it's always usually on an open fire with a pan and stuff. And
so when you were on day 2 of your fasting, you were watching this.
Yeah, that's a hard watch then, but seriously, but some of these are, and the thing is, that's what I like about that, because without Patreon, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing, without video, without YouTube. So as an example of, this is the reason why this technology should be used, there is no better example than this person, because without the internet, this guy would probably be a mechanic, or he's going to be a chef in a
stick to his day job
in a grill and ribs place or something. But now he can do this and share his cooking skills. But they are just stunning recipes, and just the way it's the philosophy of cooking. Instead of this precision, it has to be exactly this, and it has to be exactly this, and you have to do this. This is very much a kind of in the realms of the Jamie Oliver. Yeah, you just get it, and you put it in, and and this guy's the same. It's just, but this is fantastic.
Nice.
Absolutely fantastic. Nice. This one.
So I saw something coming in.
Like yeah, there's quite a few. I do. You do. So, cool. So Ian, I'll probably ask you about which one at some point in time. But yeah, I feel the need to as well. A few of them, I think I need to. I just really like the Patreon. I guess that's what I like. I like the creativity. I like the fact that everybody else was doing fundamentally the same thing. How do we monetize all this stuff? Mm-hmm. And then this guy, Mr. Patreon, I can't remember what his name is. He just decides to do something in the opposite direction of everybody else, and I really like that.
Yeah, it's like a monthly fee that you can get from your followers. Like a monthly fee to support your work, and then you can go on with your work.
Yeah, but there is this fine line, isn't there, with everything on the web at the moment of, are you doing it just to make money? Mm-hmm. So everything you do is just to gain followers and make more money? Or are you just a creative person dedicated to what you believe creativity is, and as a secondary factor, and here's a way that somebody can support you with your creative niche.
Yeah, your craft and things.
So there are, how many out of all the people that are on there, how many are just truly creative people with integrity, and they're just following their path regardless of the number of followers and the amount of money they make, and don't deviate from that? Or people who maybe are not that creative but are thinking, this is just actually a really cool, very easy way of making money, and how do I do it? You just become sensationalist. You just create. The trick is to get a viral video. Yeah. How do you get a viral video? Yeah. There's no such thing as a high quality content viral video. I can't remember one. No. I can't remember one.
No, the guy Casey you led to hear. He was the first one who made a vlog in high quality. Yeah. That's why he grew so fast. Because all the vlogs were like loose cameras and swinging all the kinds.
It's incredibly impressive.
But he makes little movies of his day, and that's why
it's incredibly impressive. It really is impressive. The one where he was just going down a street in New York on a skateboard, holding the camera out, and and just really nonchalantly just turning corners and stuff, and just talking to the camera. Damn impressive.
And the thing goes really fast as well. It's not a skateboard that goes like...
That's a powered one,
It's a powered one with batteries, yeah. Like...
Oh no, he was moving, like really moving.
Like pedaling like...
No, it was really moving, like a car.
He's scrolling by, and in the camera, and the other one this. And
yeah, I don't think that would work for me here. The cobbled...
You can go to Utrecht, and then go to Utrecht.
No.
Yeah, no, you need a stabilizer or things like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Patreon is not on my list for now, I think, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
No, I really like it. I've had the account for a long time. I haven't used it yet, and but on the new things that I'm looking to do, absolutely, and see what happens. But it'll be interesting. It'll just be interesting to try something different as well as what I'm doing.
That's what you need to do.
Question for you: you're a photographer, so you Nikon, Canon.
I'm a
or
Canon.
Something different?
I'm a Canon now. Yeah. For how much years?
Now, so you were something else.
No. I'm thinking of switching. That's why I don't know yet. I'm debating between Sony and Fuji.
Another person, another Sony.
I know.
What is it about the Sony then that is getting the attention of people? Mm-hmm. What is it?
I think it's the size of the cameras. It's sizing down the cameras. Full frame, the high ISO for filming is for my taste. It's nice, but Fuji has nice cameras as well. So I'm debating between those two. But
which kind of Fuji though? Because Fuji make a range.
There's a new one, the 1H. I think it's the 1H. You can, and you have the TX too. Okay. I think, but now there's a newer one.
Is that kind of that shape?
No. It's a bigger one. It's like more like this, the mirrorless.
Right. The large format one, you mean?
No. That's the GFX.
All right. Okay.
That's the large format. Okay. There's one between this and the large format one.
Okay.
I think it's the H1. I think I don't know if I say it right.
And what is it about Fuji that?
Fuji, I always when I work with Patrick, the store, we sell Fuji films, Fuji printer, Fuji. So Fuji has a kind of magic in me. But the cameras and the specs are good too, and the feeling of the films is built in the Fujis. Yeah, you get the feeling of the old films like the portrait film and the 160 and things like that. So, and if you look at the camera in a film perspective, I think the Sony wins. If you look at like photo perspective, I will go to the Fuji, I think.
Right, right.
But I like my Canon as well. I'm Canon for now how many years? 2004, 5. I use Canon, and I have all the lenses and bodies and things like that. And now I have the Mark III and all the lenses and things. I'm used to the camera. I'm used to the brand.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah, but I'm feeling a kind of switch. Maybe.
Yeah, we see, I had them all given to me for such a long period of time, so I had a good relationship with Nikon for a while, so they just gave me lots of cameras, and Nikon was a brand to me as a non-photographer that was, you know, a serious brand in the world of imaging. So where Canon, to me, they were just somebody who did loads and loads of different stuff, and you would see lots of different Canon logos on things as a consumer, whereas Nikon, from a consumer's point of view, they make cameras. I know they make loads of other things too, but that's like much more high-end scientific stuff. Yeah. So I was very much into the Nikon stuff, and then I saw I saw the result from a Canon camera, and I just leant towards the result. I just preferred the look and feel of what came off the Canon camera. Yeah. Then Canon threw a whole bunch of cameras at me over the years, and then for me, I've got just the lens that I like. So I don't really care about the camera. I like my lens. I like my 85mm prime lens. I pretty much never take it off the camera. I've got a whole bunch of stuff in that cabinet there, but I only ever have one camera back and one lens, and that's the only one I use. Obviously, I'm not a professional photographer in any way, but I just love that lens. But I'm intrigued about the Fuji. I've seen too many people who absolutely are in love with that, and this goes back to that book. I Know You've Got Soul. Yeah, it's just a bloody camera, for Christ's sake. And it's no different to any other camera.
Look and feel of the camera in the old days. That's what I think.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because if you take a picture with that and you chuck it up on the screen, no one's going to know it came from that camera. It would be a guess. Yeah. So what is it that makes people love it and become, you know, and they would talk about all the technical stuff, because the amount of people that say to me, yeah, the sensor is different and everything, but it makes no difference once it hits a computer, my friend. Yeah. Because it's just a bloody pixel and it's just a pixel value. It makes, you know, Photoshop has got no technical understanding of what camera it came from. In the pixel is no different once it's on a computer. So why is this just massive fanfare over it? And it is the retro styling. It is.
Yeah, I think the styling absolutely. As well. Yeah.
To me,
and I like the hands-on doing again with the photography. So your ring is on the lens to put in your fragma and the shutter speed and the ISOs. You know, it's like back to the old. Yeah,
you go to the lens and change the rings.
The old kind of way of photography. Yeah. And maybe you get the sense of how it was, you know. Yeah. But the Sony is nice as well. But if I need to choose now, I will choose the Fuji, I think. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I know loads of people who use the Sony now. Yeah. Loads.
Yeah, me too. Me too. That's why you're gonna watch and what the camera does.
You would never have dreamt it 5 years ago.
No. No. But you see the people around you, and you hear stories, and you see the results. And
you see, I can remember, God, 10 maybe more years ago, being at trade shows and then going over to the Sony store, because I was always interested in various things with Sony, especially the video cameras, because all my, you know, there's the thing about brand loyalty, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
That's
like
why I'm still in Canon.
I would always have a Sony TV, and so I never had a problem with my TVs. And then you'd have a Sony tape recorder or CD player, and then I would end up with Sony camcorders, and all the cameras in here are Sony.
Yeah.
I never once sat there and did the witch thing where you look at one to the other. Once you've got brand loyalty, it's there until that company ruins the brand loyalty. And I've had my brand loyalty with one of the suppliers that I use broken completely with their contemptuous way that they behave or behaved in. And so I now have this principle: I'm never giving them another cent ever. And I will look at all sorts of alternatives before I will spend any more money. But yeah, it's but the Fuji, I see people using it, and I see the love, and they're holding it and everything, and so I've got that one to play with, and
nice. And how is it so far?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it that I'm not holding this huge brick.
Yeah, this is a particularly small one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a project that I want to make a video probably in the next month. I have to make a mini little documentary, and I'm now just debating whether I will use that to actually make the video, and use that to do some of the stills and also some of the video too. But yeah, it's cool. It's
nice.
cool.
Nice.
It's cool. So anyway, my friend, got anything else?
Got anything else for you? Yeah, I'm curious I'm curious about the things you do with the Photoshop, and you're gonna do lots of new things with it. You said. How do you come up with some kind of a system that works? You know, you have many years back now. Did you have the system invented with the printing background? You come from the print background, and now you have developed the, how do you say it?
The processing.
The processing.
Yeah.
How do you? Yeah,
how do I come up with that?
Yeah, how do you come up with it? What's the first time you said, "Now I've got it"?
Well, I think the motivation was because, like you worked in a retail environment, right? So you didn't get all day to scan 36 transparencies. No. You know, your boss would want you to do them really well, but there's a weighing scales of all you have to really do is meet customer expectation, because we need to get a lot of work done, because we need to be profitable, because we need to pay your salary and everything else.
Films are stacking up.
Yeah, so you've got this thing called workflow, not what people today consider as workflow. I mean true workflow. You know, profitability. And so I was always, even when I was just an everyday employee before I became a director of companies, when you absolutely have to know that you are making profit on that job. So workflow to me was always a time and motion study. I would always be watching what I do and think, every job I ever did, whether it was for a few minutes or seconds, once the job was completed and the customer smiled and paid the money, I would always then think, could I have done that quicker? Could I have used less intermediate films? Because to make 4 printing plates, sometimes you would have a stack of films this high, and each film had a unit value, and that cost the company. So, you know, if I'd have done it in positive and then gone to a negative plate, could I have cut down 1/3 of the intermediate films? Then there would have been more profit. Then I could argue for more money.
Yeah.
You know, could I be more efficient? Or was there a way of increasing the quality? Is there a way of speeding up the process? And so I was always under the pressure in my lithographic days for the first 5 years to be as creative as I could be, but under the watch. You know, you can't take forever, dude. And you keep making mistakes like that and you've got no job. So the pressure you was under to be creative in inventing solutions, but also do it in a cost-effective time I was indoctrinated from the age of 16. So when I saw then computers and scanning and all that, it was just And then I got into management really early in my mid-20s, and I was the director of a huge company by the time I was like 27 or something, 26. And time and motion and stuff. And then when the Mac came out, and we had these proprietary systems that cost millions, and then the Mac came out, and you could get exactly the same thing for 200,000. And I worked for a company, one of the first companies that sold a PostScript solution with an Apple Mac. They hated me there. I think the first thing I did was I proved that you couldn't make the repayments on the kit if you had one scanner with a PC in those days. Actually, no, a scanner was attached to a Mac to control it, and you had one machine for Quark Express, and you had one machine for the inkjet, and then you had one machine for the film output. That would cost about 200,000, maybe 180,000 pounds. It was physically impossible to do enough work to pay for it at the unit cost of a double-page spread. It was physically impossible. So we had to then find ways where we could actually prove that you could make money. So then we stuck 2 rips on the output unit, because the most expensive part of the kit was the output unit, and that only got used for about 2 hours a day because it took so long to do the scanning. Took so long on the network to send the image to the RIP, so we had to find ingenious ways how we could get that to actually be spinning. If that's spinning, it's making money. Yeah. And then PostScript errors, that would be the cause for that to be sitting some days, and it would never output a good piece of film. So workflow's always been my philosophy, that you've got to be as creative as you possibly can be, but you've also got to be profitable. And so then when I saw my world change, and it went from scanning transparencies, into Photoshop, and I looked at Photoshop and I just laughed from the kit that I came from, and I looked at Photoshop and I said, well, this cannot be my future. This is a joke, and it still is a joke. I mean, it still is a child's toy, but luckily it's a child's toy with a couple of elements in it, which means I can take the experience from my past and I can apply it to Photoshop to do what I do. So my little processing gizmo is basically me mimicking how a high-end drum scanner worked, from the signal going through the computer. That's how my process works. And so when I watch somebody, which is what I do when I go and do consultancy, so if you paid me to come and be a consultant to you to help you create a workflow in your studio, I would sit and watch you work for at least an hour and a half, and that would make you feel really uncomfortable. But I would just go, show me what you do. There's a shot, click. Now show me how that ends up on the wall. Show me all the steps that you go through, and I'll watch it. And it's just what we call pissing in the wind. It's just subjective shit. Every single step. On the camera, I just play with it here. In the raw converter, I just nudge it over here a bit, and I nudge it over there. Why? Because I saw a guy on YouTube do it. And then it comes into Photoshop, and then I do this and I do that. Why do you do that? No idea really, but it works. And everything's subjective. And then the biggest complaint nearly everybody has is inconsistency, or having a predictable outcome. And you can only have a predictable outcome if you approach it in a scientific manner. So you can still be incredibly creative, but you can do it with a scientific understanding of why you're creative, rather than every time I wang it over here, my customer likes it, because there's no scientific understanding with that. So everything I do comes back to the early days of Photoshop and everything, when it wasn't me dealing with photographers, it was me dealing with repro companies, litho companies, who had huge requirements to be efficient and profitable and trying to make this kit work. And me just trying to make it a creative process, but it's a mechanical process, it's a scientific process through processing. And then once I've processed the image, which is not subjective, it is not, I just like it like that, or I'm just going to move that over a bit, it's ba 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 ba. Then I can be creative in I only allow myself to be creative when I'm retouching. So once I've got the image how I wish it came off of the camera,
the process,
then I allow myself to be creative. So I don't allow myself to be creative when I see the image in the raw converter, because the image is in its worst state. And then even when I open it from there into Photoshop, it's still in its worst state, but it has potential. And then I do the processing, and then it's a lot better. And then I say to myself, in the context that I'm going to use that picture, how do I now want it to be? Is it the double page spread of an album? Is it going to be a single image on the wall? Is it going to be on a website? What page on the website? Where on the website? Because then your retouching is going to be influenced by that. So it's just being efficient, that's all. Yeah. Because the problem, you see, in the early days when cameras were really, really slow and compact flash cards were really, really small, the number of images that somebody would take on a job would be next to nothing, right? They'd be really small. I mean, you did weddings in the early days, right? So you never used to shoot 4,000 images.
No. I got rolls. You know?
Yeah, but then when you first went digital and you did weddings, you wouldn't have shot 4,000 images on a wedding.
No. It became easier when you say, hey, it's nice to shoot some extra moments, but...
Yeah, but it would be, what, a couple of hundred maybe at the most. And out of that, you would whittle it down because you would be mimicking how it would have been with film. But now, well, how do you process to a higher standard 2,500 images? You don't do it one at a time. And if you do the batch processing thing that people do in Lightroom, where you go, yeah, these 3 images are similar, so I'm going to do it on this one and then copy and paste it. Are you really doing the best you can do when you're doing that? Or is that the line of least of resistance? Yeah. And I hate the line of least resistance. And when I find myself following it, I just turn in the other direction. And so for me, minimum choices on RAW, pick them up, drop them on a droplet, go to sleep, wake up. They're infinitely better than they would have been from the camera, which is what we want. And then I can do the bit that I like doing, which is retouching, because I hate processing images. Because all I think I'm doing is fixing the camera.
That's why you said it's a shit piece of camera.
Well, I didn't say it. Did I say that?
Something like that.
Sucks. My camera sucks, and so does Photoshop.
Yeah, that was it. The camera sucks.
Yeah, my camera sucks, and so does Photoshop. It doesn't suck. Well, no, the cameras back then sucked a lot more than they do now. But I would still argue today that, just seriously, I mean, is there anybody, I'm sure there is somebody, but is there anybody that would just, in all walks of life, any walk of life in photography, be able to just take a shot with any camera today and just give the RAW file? Just open up the RAW file into a RAW converter and just save it as a JPEG and give it to a client and be happy to do that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so as well. No.
The only way you can possibly do that is if you've got a very low expectation of what quality is.
Yeah, some clients have.
Because then why, if that's all you're going to do, then why shoot RAW in the first place? Why not just save JPEG?
Yeah, it's a better.
Yeah. And the problem is, the more I get in, well, you know, it is my universe at the moment, RAW files and RAW converters, and it's a huge issue, which I'm struggling to find a path out of it. It's like being in a smoothie maker. It's just so different because every day there's another alternative, and then Adobe throw this crap into the mix with this new Adobe color profile and stuff, and then there's this hysteria over it. And all it is a different start point. It's just no different than before. It's just a little bit more colourful. It's a bit more contrasty, and people like it. Yeah. It's no different to going to your TV and just going a bit more contrast and a bit more brightness and a bit more colour. Yeah. Yay! Yeah. Thanks, Adobe. Yeah, we still got shit highlights and no shadow detail, but thank you all the same.
Yeah. And if you need to choose between the engine of Capture One or the engine of Lightroom, what do you do?
You didn't tell me you were going to do this.
You want me to ask questions?
Jesus, it's really hard. I'm stuck. I'm really stuck. I lean towards phase. I lean towards capture, but I've got major misgivings with the profiling, the ad hoc profiling for every camera, and the fact that they've added clarity to the profiles, so you can't get an image that was the image that the manufacturer wanted you to have. You know what I mean? You can't get an image which represents what the camera's manufacturer's default was, and that's that should be paramount. You know, when you look at your image in a RAW converter, it should be what your camera took on a principle level, because that's why you are sitting there thinking, should I go and Sony? Because you see the images, but the problem is when you're judging a camera by an image on the wall, you're not judging the camera, you're judging the RAW converter it went through, and then all the wanging around and brushing and everything that somebody's done on the image. So you're not judging the camera, you're judging a result that was made from the ingredients that came from the camera. So less variables in the Adobe, but the problem with Adobe is that if you use any of the the RAW engines other than 2010, which is 8 years old now, it uses auto recovery but doesn't let anybody know. And 98% of all people who use Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw have no idea that auto recovery is being applied on their image. And whenever I give a talk, and I do this all the time, because what I find is it's my job when somebody is so entrenched in their delusion, when they are so aggressive, and you know the one thing after doing my job for a long time, you become a body language expert, because you're looking out, and I know that I will say something that will be a really barbed, it'll be a real spiky comment, and then I'm just watching to see what the reactions are, and you see people talk, and their backsides are shifting, and they're writing stuff down, and or they fold their arms and their elbows come out, which is fuck off, you know, and and I say, so how many people use Lightroom? And in every audience it's like 95%. 95%.
Yeah, but you see the switch.
But it's either Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom. There's 95% they put their hands up and they go, really? Hands up who thinks it's the best thing ever, and the same people keep their hands up, and they go, okay, would it be okay if I start? And I always start with this, just, and you can see they wish they didn't come. They wish they weren't in the audience. They wish they could get up and have the balls to leave, because they don't want to hear somebody prove to them that it isn't what they've believed it to be. And so then I just pick up an image and I just show it in one program, and I show the clipping, and then you open it up in Adobe and there's no clipping. I go, how many people didn't know this? Not one person. It's a scary indictment of the industry, the fact that people with so many opinions over what is good, bad and ugly were able to be conned by the biggest supplier of software, and not one person knew. Not one person knew, because it was never in the technical specs that they added auto recovery, and I just find it laughable. Really, it's sad. And then when you just show a very simple way how you can get the true highlight detail and the true shadow by just not doing anything that is convention. It's like, wow, cool. That's what I could have had for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
I could have had that for the last 8 years. But it's, as you know, it's not for everybody. It's certainly not for everybody.
No.
And I'm not as entrenched in it as I used to be either, which is really good, because like we were taught when we were having dinner, and we are similar definitely in this black or white, read or not read, and just very, and then suddenly, you know what? No, I'm open now. I'm going to force myself, even though I'm kicking and screaming, to be open, and I'm not as entrenched as I used to be. And the thing that I'm really intrigued about that camera, now I'm testing it. I haven't done any testing with it because it's horrible weather since I've had it. But next week I understand the sun's going to come out, and when I test this camera, I am not shooting RAW for the first couple of weeks. I'm going to do only JPEG shooting. So I put everything I do to one side and just be a photographer with a camera and create the end game with it. And I don't know how I'm going to be happy doing that, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, look how what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Because actually, the only way you can truly judge your camera, just your camera, is to bypass RAW. You can't look at a RAW file and judge the camera. you have to bypass the raw file and do a JPEG so that when you open that in Photoshop or any other program, it's not going through a conversion that deviates it from the manufacturer. So that has been a major penny drop moment for me in the last few months, that I do now more and more and more. It's the only way to judge the actual device from the raw converter, and raw converters are just a joke. It's just a joke for me. I cannot believe that an industry that is so dependent on this phase in the workflow, it is just the Wild West. It's just chaos. And my raw converter is better than your raw converter. And it's like, really? You can't see it's shite? And you don't even know that all the highlights are wrong because it's got recovery on it, which is just like McDonald's have gone in there and regurgitated the detail. It's just awful. It's awful. Yeah, so it's really hard at the moment. We're trying to find a way of moving forward. And but I think if a gun was to my head, and that's the analogy I have to use all the time, if somebody just put a gun to my head and said, choose, I still don't know. Kill me. I don't want the problem anymore. I'd probably go Lightroom. I'd go Adobe Camera Raw. But I backdate it to 2010, so it doesn't do auto recovery, which brings a whole bunch of other problems then. Yeah. But I don't like the fact if Phase would get or make it optional that I can turn on or turn off their use of clarity in the actual lookup table that creates the image, I in a heartbeat, I would go. Yeah. I would just be all over capture like a rash. But at the moment, I'm a bit like you with Fuji and Sony. I'm just hedging my bets at the moment.
Just turning around,
So it's a hard one, and it isn't. Nobody has come into the market with a clear winner. Nobody's come in and done anything different. They're all pandering to the masses, and nearly every new raw converter that I've ever seen does auto recovery because Adobe did it, and nothing went wrong with them. That's what the market wants.
Yeah, not all.
So nearly all of them do it now. And it's a horrible state of affairs that has been able to happen. So at the moment, it's a bit like this.
Yeah, like my Sony thing. What's the nugget for you today?
The nugget?
Yeah, what do you get out of today?
Reading. It's just good to have somebody change your direction 1 degree. Because 1 degree today, tomorrow is 1.5 degrees. You know what I mean? It just deviates just a little bit. Just having you in my environment, because this was meant to have happened a long time ago, right? And it didn't. And I didn't explain to you why, not fully, but it doesn't really matter at this point in time. But I just think it's brilliant, isn't it? Because I never saw you when you came to that really big gig that I did for Adobe, but you came to my show in Delft.
Yeah, in Delft.
I didn't even know that you lived there.
And there was another one in Nijmegen. No, I don't know.
There was another one there, and I remember you came there, and that was like 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah. And then suddenly, boom, Cafe Obscura is there, and then wow, good for you, dude. Good for you. And you're doing it in Dutch, even better for you. Do you know what I mean? And it's because it's not the logical thing to do if you want a lot of people.
I know.
So it's an enormous bit of courage
to
say.
Sometime when everybody goes left, I go right.
Exactly. What was the one that I read on a store window?
Yeah, you mentioned it in the episode as well, I think.
Yeah, on the store window. What was it? Oh God, man!
Did you know the question already? You want to ask?
No, I can't. No? I can't remember it. And it's so annoying because it was a bloody good question. I've got to find this quote because this is a stunning quote, and it was on my Instagram. I will try my hardest to find it quite quickly, but it seems that it's not going to be quickly enough. Where do I find my stuff?
Yeah, my nugget for today, I think, is to set your mind to do something, you know, and
mind over matter.
Yeah, mind over matter. Yeah.
Honestly, this is what I found. I mean, I've discussed with Kel many times about like for me, you know, finding, say, members for my website is to me like prospecting. I visualize being in the gold rush. What was it, in the 1800s? Was it 1800s? Yeah, late 17, early 1800s? And you get a pan and you pick up a huge pile of shit in the thing, and then you just let the water, and then if you're lucky, you find a couple of nuggets. And that's why I come up with, you know, the member ratio out of 1,000 people will be maybe 3. And without the internet, that's no business model. But with the internet, it's a fantastic business model. Yep. And or let's just say it works. And I have no desire to make things mainstream, and I don't look at it and go, oh my God, I want to get I have a number that I'd like to reach just because I believe it's possible to get there. Not because I want that amount of money. I just believe it's possible to get there. I certainly believe I've got a product that could get there. It's just that trying to get a me that is consistent enough and is okay enough to get there. Where the hell is this picture? There's a, God, what was it? This quote? There was a quote in a store, and I put it up on Instagram recently, and it's well worth it when I can find it, if I can find it. It? And it's all about going in the other direction. And I've said this forever. Whenever I see a group of people all just like celebrating in their unified opinion that this is the right way to go, why would I waste my time in going in that direction? There's nothing to be learnt. There's nothing to be explored. All they're doing is just copying each other. And usually they're copying each other not because they formulated the idea that they're following, is they were shown it by somebody else and they never questioned it. Yeah. So what I question every single thing I do every single day, over and over and over again. I never presume that my belief today is going to be my belief tomorrow. No. Never. No, I'm open to it being a whole new thing. And you know what? I cannot find it, and it's driving me mad. And I'm going to walk past the bloody shop when I go home. But I'll have to do it another day. But
yeah, God, you can put it up or something. Yeah.
What is it? It's something like when a fish is swimming with the current, it's usually dead or something. You know, you're dead in the water if you're moving with the current. You've got to be going against the current to go anywhere interesting. It's that kind of feel. Yeah. And it was just so simplistic, and it's on my phone somewhere.
Go into it and not with it.
Yeah, exactly. I call it the path of least resistance. When I find myself making a choice because it's the easiest choice, I stop myself making it. Yeah. Because the easiest thing for me to do is just to be all over the world saying that Lightroom's the best thing ever, right? That would be the easiest thing.
Yeah, that would be easy, yeah.
You know, that would be the easiest thing, but I would be selling myself out because it's not the best thing, it's the most popular. And why is it the most popular? It's because it's the... Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Why am I doing that? It's the most popular because it's the easiest thing to learn. Yeah. It's the line of least resistance. It's the easiest thing to use. And because they've got the most amount of numbers, and that's only brand awareness, because seriously, if Lightroom wasn't invented by Adobe, okay? It wasn't conceived by Adobe, it was purchased by Adobe. And my belief, I'm not 100% sure in this, but I'm pretty sure, because I know the time difference from when they bought it to when they released it as a beta. It was a long time. So companies acquire software to stop them coming out on the market, right? That's the number one reason why most companies will buy other companies. It's not to add them to their repertoire, it's to take away the competition. And so Adobe, when they bought Lightroom, they didn't buy it with a view of bringing it out in the market, because if they did, they would have brought it out in the market a lot quicker. Yeah. They only brought it out in the market as a reaction to Apple bringing out Aperture. Yeah. If Apple hadn't brought out Aperture, Lightroom wouldn't be here right now, because Adobe Camera Raw would be all they needed. Yeah. It's that simple. So, you know, it's the line of least resistance, and also, you know, saying something is the best, it's the best thing, purely and utterly because when you look around, you see everybody else using it, doesn't make it the best thing. It just means it's the most popular thing. but it's not a considered choice. Because I ask most people when I say who just are really like this and they will not hear a single word against it. I just say, so when you were deciding to go down the Lightroom route, did you compare it to the others on the market? No.
Yeah, because they are
so
using already
it's your
Photoshop.
only frame of reference.
Yeah.
So you've got a frame of reference of one, but you say it's the best thing.
Where did you make
how does that work?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. I do.
No. Yeah, it is working. You are moving. It's okay.
Oh,
I can see you moving up there. Move a bit because you were a little bit static. I thought when I closed that, it shut it down.
Shut it down. No,
it didn't. It didn't. Yeah.
It's already.
Yeah, it's already really quite late. So shall we? This is the longest one. You've got the record.
I'm the longest one.
Yeah, by about 15 minutes.
Normally I do it. In my studio was the longest one was 3 hours and 15 minutes, I think, or something. But
yeah, I don't think there is anybody watching that.
That's no problem. We're having a good time. And
no, look, absolutely.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Nice to have.
Dude, I've had a great day today.
Me too.
A great day.
Me too.
Great day. We need to do this again.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll do next time, because you are who you are and what you do, I think what we'll do next time is we'll make it a focused one. Instead of just shooting the shit and whatever goes, I think what would be really good is if we chose a subject and then you and I talked about a particular subject.
Yeah.
I've got a couple in mind that I think in a few months' time, if you're up for it, come back. And,
we can do it.
And we'll see.
I'm always in.
And then I think also maybe, just maybe, you think about it and me and Cafe Obscura together downstairs for a Sunday evening or something, or a Monday evening or something, or whatever, and see what you think about that, whether that would be a good thing.
We'll see. I like the idea. Let's brainstorm a little bit.
Let's see what can happen.
At least see what can happen.
Anyway, guys, if there is anybody still watching,
thanks. Yeah, thanks for sticking by.
And
it was nice.
Yeah. Cool. We'll see you again soon. I never know how to wrap these up. I want to make an animation thing that is like a closing thing or something.
Off, yeah.
And and I know what I want to do, but I just haven't had time to do it. But so basically, I'm just going to press the button and let it go. Okay. So
we're wrapping up.
Yeah. See you later.